All right. Good morning to our participants coming from City One. How are you? We have a total of 42 participating teachers today, junior high school English teachers who are with us. Actually, we have the total of 40 schools, 40 public secondary schools in City One who have signified through our attendance link. All right. So those who have not yet signed in, so kindly take your time so that we are about to start with our preliminaries for our kickoff activity for our trade day, teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines. All right. So I would like to request everyone that you are permanently muted and you can just unmute yourself later on during the question and answer portion for you to be able to share your questions to our speakers with regards to the topics discussed. All right. Anyway, I would like to greet everyone. Good morning. And of course, to our training team, headed by no less than our training manager, Sir Ronilo Palingkod, at the same time, our IT in charge. Of course, our concurrent session in charge, Ma'am Marilu Arbasto. Good morning, Ma'am and Sir. All right. So, of course, our training team, our equally competent and brilliant speakers for the tradie training, starting off with Sir Marvin. We have Sir Jesse Lucahes, Ma'am Gemma Calacar, Ma'am Peregrita Datahan, Sir Felix Anyasco, and yours truly. Good morning to you, sirs and ma'ams. All right.
Morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah,
Morning, Sir
so
Paul.
we are all prepared for this. And of course, we would like to extend our greetings to our division office personnel, headed by our dynamic schools division superintendent, Dr. Bianito Dagatan, CISO 5, our two assistant schools division superintendent, Dr. Danilo Godilusaw and Dr. Faustino Turradio, our CID chief, Dr. Carmila Ristificar, our SGOD chief, Dr. Desiderio De Lejero, our EPSS, headed by, of course, our man of this event, Sir Pablito Villalon, our EPS in English, who is the reason for this cascading of our webinar last July 25 to 30. Of course, to our public schools district supervisor of the 56 participating districts of Bohol Division. Good morning, ma'am and sir. To our school heads of the secondary schools. I say secondary schools because the elementary also have their different session, all right? And of course, to our participating junior high school English teachers of CD1, good morning. All right, so we are now on the start of our event. So actually, this is going to be a trading event. Today is the kickoff. Will be up until September 10 on Friday, and I hope that you will stay around until the last day of our webinar. All right. And I hope that you have already signified yourself through our attendance link that is posted through our group chat and our chat box. So that your attendance will be considered for today. And of course, I'm reminding everyone, I hope that you are in a place with a stable connection so that you cannot have problems on the way and you can take full advantage of listening to our lecture from our brilliant speakers. And of course, you can also attend to yourself. You can bring along with you your snacks. This is going to be a working session snack. Anytime you can take a bit of your biscuits there. If you have water, if you have juice there with you, you can also prepare that. And you can also take your comfort room to attend your needs so that we will be going through our session without interruption. All right, is it okay? All right, so for us to get started, ladies and gentlemen, may I request everyone's full attention as we pay homage to our country and the province through the Philippine national anthem, Bohol Hymn, and which is to be followed by a doxology via PowerPoint slides.
Sir Paul, no audio, sir.
Right, so hold for a while. Technical problem. All right, once again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our day one of our webinar on teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines. So we're about to begin with our session one today. And but for us to be officially welcome, let us hear the words of welcome and the rationale from our very own EPS in English, Sir Pablito Villalon. All right, so we're waiting for the video of Sir Pabs. It's on screen.
At the outset, I would like to thank our school's division superintendent, Dr. Bianito A. Dagatan, for his incessant support for allowing us to cascade the 6 sessions webinar series on teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines to all our English teachers, both elementary and secondary, specifically junior high schools, to our 2 assistant schools division superintendents, Dr. Danilo G. Gudilosaw and Dr. Faustino N. Toradio, our CID Chief, Dr. Carmila Restificar, Dr. Desiderio Dilejero, our SGOD Chief, our ever supportive and indefatigable English TWG chairpersons from both elementary and secondary schools, our training managers, our dry run focal persons, concurrent session chairpersons, our selected national and regional trained learning resource speakers or facilitators, and most especially the recipients of this undertaking, our frontliners, our English teachers from the three congressional districts of our province, which are divided into six groups, three from the elementary and three from the juniors. Good morning. Today, despite the threat of the global pandemic of COVID-19, which we are seriously facing right now, this does not deter us from making positive impacts on the lives of our teachers. We boldly step forward to conduct this rare opportunity to resharpen and repolish the English communication skills of our teachers for the best interest of our learners. To all our participants, I would not say good luck, but I would rather say do your best. Take this situation as a challenge, as an opportunity to broaden your horizons and capabilities in looking things in different perspectives. And I fervently hope that what you will gain from these virtual gatherings will ultimately be cascaded to our learners if we really want to help them improve their communication skills in English. As they say, we cannot give of what we don't have. By this, in order to be equipped, let us join our hands together for a unified purpose with improving our craft, not only for the sake of our learners, but also for our personal advancements. With this note, I am happy to welcome you all to this 3-day, 6 sessions webinar series on teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines. Take care of ourselves and our health. Keep safe, everyone, and thank you very much for your very much needed cooperation that would make this endeavor a success.
All right, there goes the message from our school, our EPS in English, Sir Villalon. And of course, that is through the mandate of our school's division superintendent. All right, so thank you so much. So of course, at this point in time, this webinar will not be complete without what is traditional practice, which is the acknowledgement of the participants, the training facilitators, and of course, the in charge of this webinar. All right, at this point in time, let me call in the senior high school teacher 2 of San Jose National High School, Sir Jesse Cajes, to formally acknowledge and welcome our participants from CD1. Sir Jesse, take it your way.
Yes, thank you very much, Sir Paul or Dr. Paul Kubay, for your introduction. So, how are you, everyone? Good day, and I hope that everyone is doing well. Good morning to all the Congressional District 1 Junior High School English teachers. I hope that you are all doing fine as you are given this opportunity for you to learn something for the sake of quality and accessible education for our learners, particularly in your district. So my task here is for me to acknowledge your presence here in our webinar. Now I'm going to be calling you by chunks of school. And then if your school is named, please do drop your name or your school, the name of your school in the chat box, or you can raise a virtual hand. But I would prefer if you are going to do some chatting on the chat box so that I can also read some of your names or the school. Please include the name of your school, okay? So let's start up with the school starting with letter B. Okay, so let's all give a round of applause, a round of virtual applause to the beautiful, brave, and brilliant English teachers of Baclayon National High School, Bagong Banwa National High School, Bantolina National High School, Biking Technical Vocational High School, and Busao National High School. Where are you? Okay, I have here in the chat box one from Biking, Ma'am Irene Lopez. Also from Biking, Sir John Paul Renijan. Who else are from the letter B? How about those from Baclayon, Bagong Banwa, Bantulina? Do we have them here? I hope you are already in the in here in this webinar. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And so let's proceed. Okay, let's proceed with the schools, starting with letter C. Let's all give our warmest welcome to the captivating, charming, courageous English teachers of Kabilao National High School, Kalape National High School, Kanangkaan Integrated School, Kanlaas High School, Katigbian National High School, Kawayanan National High School, Congressman Pablo Malasarte High School, and Corelia National High School. Where are you? So we have here from Canlaas. Good. Okay, so where are the other schools starting with letter C? Katikbian National High School, Kanangka National High School, Sir Jason Cesar. Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome everyone. Okay, now we proceed with the schools starting with letter D. They are diligent, they are disciplined, they are daring. English teachers of Dawes National High School and De La Paz High School. Where are you now? So we have also from Calape National High School, Kawayanan National High School. Okay, how about from Dawes and De La Paz High School? Do we have them here? Yes, just encode your name and the name of your school in the chat box if you want to be acknowledged. Okay, so I know that they are already here, or you can also get in this as we going to start with the session one if your internet connection is not that stable. Okay, now we proceed with a fabulous, fearless, and firm English teachers of the school, starting with letter F. Fatima National High School, Felix E. Bompat High School, and Fermin Tayabas High School. Do we have them? Yes. From Fatima National High School, Ma'am Nelson Nalzaro. Hello, hello, good morning. How about those from Felix E. Bompat High School and Fermin Tayabas High School? Do we have them here as well? Please do encode your name in the chat box if you're here. But then I know that you are already present in your school. We have from Dawis National High School. Okay, backtrack to letter D. Okay, so now let's not make much ado as we proceed with the great, godly, and gutsy English teachers of Governor Jacinto Borja National High School, the only one starting with letter G. Do we have them here? Earlier, I have read one from Governor Jacinto Borja National High School. So I know that you have already contacted your co-teachers and they are very much alive and listening in our opening program. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Now let's proceed to the school starting with letter H, the headstrong, the high-spirited, yet humble English teachers of Hagbuaya High School, Hagilanan High School, and Hanopol National High School. Yes, Hagbuaya High School. Mama Del Shelo, Ma'am Janice Tagsa, and Ma'am Marily Kobodbod. Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. And also those from Hagilanan and Hanopol National High School, I know that you're there. Okay. Maybe you're just shy of giving your names, but then don't be. Yes, now let's proceed with the loving, likable, and loyal English teachers of Loan South National High School, Lourdes High School of Cortez, and Lourdes National High School of Panglao. We have Ma'am Melinda Bojongan of Lourdes National High School. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am Shara Marie Lagas of Lourdes National High School as well. Ma'am Veronica of Lourdes National High School. Welcome, welcome to all of you. How about for those from Cortez, Lourdes High School, and Loon South National High School? That is where Sir Paul came from, but now he's already a school head. Right, Sir Paul? I think it's right. Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Now, let's proceed. So we have still from LNHS, from Dolores Micabini. Yes, ma'am. Welcome, welcome. Now we proceed with the magnanimous, mighty, and masterly English teachers of Montecita High School, Mayor Anunciacion R. Tuazon National School of Fisheries, and Modesto Autida High School. Welcome, welcome. So we have from the I saw earlier a teacher from Mantasida High School chatting in the chat box. So welcome, welcome everyone. Now we proceed with the positive, pleasing, and perceptive English teachers of those schools starting with letter P. We have Pagnituan National High School, Pamilacan High School, Panggangan National High School, and Ponciano El Padin National High School. Where are you? So we have Ma'am Jane Dizon of Panggangan National High School, watching also from Calape National High School, right here in the chat box. Okay, so I hope that all of those schools starting with letter P have English teacher representative, or all of the English teachers in junior high school are already watching in our opening program, so that we'll be ready with our session 1. Now we proceed with the school starting with letter S, the smart, the selfless, and the sincere English teachers of San Roque Integrated School, San Roque National High School, Sandingan National High School, and Sikatuna National High School. Where are you? So we have one from Albor. Okay, maybe he's from or she's from San Roque National High School, right? How about the others? How about the other schools starting with letter S? San Roque Integrated School, Sandinga National High School, and Sikatuna National High School. I hope that again you are already in this. Okay. And the Tubigon West Central High School cannot wait because they are going to be called later on. Yes, next. So we have school starting with letter T. Let's give a round of applause to our tenacious, talented, and tough teachers of Tabalong National High School, Tubigon West Central High School, Tubigon West National High School, and Tupas High School. We have them here from Tabalong National High School, from Tubigon West Central High School, and all the other schools starting with letter T, and all of the schools in CD1 Junior High School. Welcome, welcome, and I hope that you will have a fruitful 3-day seminar or webinar, I mean, with us, so that you can again make an improvement, make a betterment in the schools that we are handling and the students that we are catering. So that would be all. Thank you very much, everyone. And please feel safe and be healthy as always. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Jessilo, for that novel kind of acknowledgement. Actually, I am so amazed with the naming of the schools according to the first letter of the school's name through the adjectives, the modifiers. Thank you so much, sir. It's such a very, it's very overwhelming and one of a kind introduction.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for setting the mode, Sir Jessilo. All right, so let's get moving. Of course, this event will not be possible without the man who is truly the reason behind, by issuing the memorandum to the field that we are going to conduct a cascading of webinar to the teachers, the junior high school teachers of CD1. Of course, the man that I'm referring to is no less than the pillar of the division of Bohol. At this point in time, let us listen to the inspirational message coming from our school's division superintendent. Let's give a virtual round of applause to Dr. Bianito Dagatan, CISO 5.
Virtual greetings, everyone, most especially to the team of facilitators of this webinar on teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines, the English teachers and school heads who attended the 5-day Region 7 webinar last July 25 to 30, 2021. Of course, this team of facilitators is under the care, guidance, and leadership of our education program supervisor in English, Sir Pablito Villalon. Our dear participants, Education Secretary Leonor Magtoles Briones underscored that education is a shared responsibility, calling for the involvement of
kung
all
ang
citizens.
senaryo mo
She
kung
also
kaya
noted
dos mabot
that
ka dito hapon na.
challenges in the education sector cannot be separated from the problems arising in the society, particularly in the economy and crises such as COVID 19. To mitigate the effects of this pandemic and other societal problems, the Department of Education has developed a learning continuity program with the help of various organizations and government agencies. Having this webinar on teaching grammar communicatively is a clear manifestation of DepEd's desire to continue delivering quality basic education despite the pandemic. It is part and parcel of the National English Proficiency Program of the department that aims to capacitate you, our dear school heads and teachers, as the key persons in the implementation of the curriculum in public elementary and secondary schools. For the school heads, your enhanced knowledge in teaching grammar communicatively will guide you in giving technical assistance to the teachers as far as the preparation and development of lessons is concerned. Likewise, for the teachers, the training will capacitate you in formulating a lesson plan that incorporates activities putting premium on students' communicative competence as they are engaged into different learning tasks. When one of the facilitators chatted me and informed me to deliver a message for this webinar, I asked him an executive summary of this activity. Upon receiving it, I noticed that he emphasized that TGCIP, or Teaching Grammar Communicatively in the Philippines, is not a whole new approach to the pedagogical side of the teaching learning process, but a review and reinforcement to what has been previously learned by the teachers to align with the current trends and demand of the learners. With this innovative approach in teaching grammar, it is expected that learners will develop language competence that redounds to better performance learning engagement. With this end in mind, it is imperative for us to put premium to the acquisition of new knowledge in teaching grammar communicatively, thus ensuring the delivery of quality basic education to our Filipino learners in general and the Boholano learners in particular. Allow me to share a story to wrap up my virtual message to all of you, our dear school heads and teachers in virtual attendance. This story about love and excellence was posted in the internet in 2011 by an unknown author or writer. This is the story of Ruby. He was a young boy who lived with his elderly mother. His mother wanted him to learn how to play the piano because she longed to hear her son play for her. She sent her son she sent her son to a piano teacher who took Ruby under her guidance. However, there was one small problem because Ruby was not musically inclined and therefore was very slow in learning. The teacher did not have much faith in the boy because of his weakness. However, the mother was very enthusiastic and every week she would send Ruby to the teacher. One day, Ruby stopped attending the piano lesson. The teacher thought that he had given up, and in fact, she was quite pleased since she did not give much hope to Ruby. Not long after, the piano teacher was given the task to organize a piano concert in town. She sent out circulars to invite the students and public to attend the event. Suddenly, she received a call from Ruby, who offered to take part in the concert. The teacher told Ruby that he was not good enough and that he was no longer a student since he had stopped coming for lessons. Ruby begged her to give him a chance and promised that he would not let her down. Finally, she gave in and she put him to play last, hoping that he will change his mind at the last minute. When the big day came, the hall was packed and the children gave their best performance. Finally, it was Ruby's turn to play, and as his name was announced, he walked in. He was not in proper attire, and his hair was not properly groomed. The teacher was really nervous since Ruby's performance could spoil the whole evening's brilliant performance. As Ruby started playing, the crowd became silent and was amazed at the skill of this little boy. In fact, he gave the best performance of the evening. At the end of his presentation, the crowd and the piano teacher gave him a standing ovation. The crowd asked Ruby how he managed to play so brilliantly with a microphone in front of him. He said, I was not able to attend the weekly piano lessons as there was no one to send me because my mother was sick with cancer. She just passed away this morning and I wanted her to hear me play. You see, this is the first time she is able to hear me play because when she was alive, she was deaf, and now I know she is listening to me. I have to play my best for her. My dear school heads and participating teachers, this is indeed a touching story of love and excellence. When you have a passion and a reason to do something, you will surely excel. You may not be talented or gifted, but if you have a strong
Ayaw ko
and
ikuan
enough
madapit ana
reason
ng
to do something,
kanang nadili ko
you
ma
will be able to
screen.
tap your inner God given potential. Find the good in you. It's all around you. Find it, showcase it, and you will start believing in it. To all of us, have a blissful day. Solong Idokalidad, para sa bata, para sa bayan. In Deep Ed Bohol, we care for all. Be whole, Bohol.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Bian.
Virtual greetings, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Bian, for the splendid message for all of us. I'm sure that we are all inspired by that, and we're provided with a clear direction of what is going to happen in this training. And I'm sure that we are filled with wisdom, knowledge, as well as into our schools division superintendent. Now, I would like to highlight everyone. We have noticed the presence of so many people right here who are coming from other city, all right, from city 2 and city 3. Wa mo na ko gipahawa ha, but I'd just like to emphasize that this CD1, this webinar that you're having right now, that you join in right now, is exclusively for CD1 only. So if you do not mind, so you would like to transfer to your CD, there is also a link that is posted there. You try to ask your supervisor or try to ask your school head of the link that is good or that is fitted for you, that is in CD2 or CD3, because this is exclusively for CD1, and we're preparing all the output links exclusive for CD1 only. So I hope it's good to see you, but then we would like to tell you that you have to go through a certain link that is for you for CD2 and CD3. I'm sorry to tell that. All right. So I understand that probably are confused of the links because there are 6 sessions that we're having today that is simultaneously conducting this webinar. All right. So again, I would like to request our teachers who just join in CD1 from CD2 and CD3 to please find the link of your CD and try to watch the webinar on the particular CD. All right. Thank you so much. So please do not forget also to log in the attendance link that is provided through our group chat and our group page so that your attendance will be considered this morning. So this is a kickoff of our 3-day event. All right. And so this time, to give us the quality assurance technical assistance monitoring and evaluation guidelines, ladies and gentlemen, let us give you our concurrent sessions in charge, the principal one of Ambassador Pablo R. Suarez High School of Carmen 3 District. Let's give it up to Marilo R. Basto. Let's give her a virtual round of applause. Yes, Mama Lo?
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Is
yes, ma'am.
my voice audible?
Of
Okay,
course,
good
ma'am.
morning, everyone. Okay, sir. Okay, my task this morning is to give you the mechanics for our quality assurance team for the mechanics of the M&E. So first, an evaluation link is provided for you to answer for us to measure achievement of the learning objectives, promote transparency, CI, and accountability for feedback and action. The second one is monitoring is a systematic process of collecting, analyzing, and using information to track a program's progress towards reaching its objectives and to guide management decisions. The third one is it is an evidence and data are keys to long-term social impact. The process of M&E tool selection must start with a well-defined goal. Next slide, please, sir. Okay. Monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, is a continuous management function to assess if progress is made in achieving expected results, to spot bottleneck and implementation, and to highlight whether there are any unintended effects, could be positive or negative, from the program or project and its activities. Next, it is the sharing of information, knowledge and expertise, and skills to reach the desired quality of processes and expected outputs of intervention or programs. Next slide, please, sir. Okay, for the M&E evaluation, here's the link. So every session, you as participants should accomplish this M&A form through Google link. This the link that is flashed on your screen, in the screen. So that would be all. Enjoy this 3-day webinar, and God bless us all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mama Lo, for giving us the comprehensive CATAB, or the quality assurance technical assistance monitoring and evaluation. And I hope everyone is able to take a screenshot of the link that you have there, because once I shift to another slide, you could no longer see that. I hope that you take a screenshot photo of that. And so, of course, the training will not become possible and great without the setting of etiquettes for us to be guided on what are our do and don'ts of the entire training. and for us to be aware also on the proper ways, decorum of teachers while conducting this webinar. So what I'm referring to is the norm setting. So at this point in time, let us welcome our training manager to give us the comprehensive norm setting, the principal one of Pedro S. Budyungan High School of Carmen 3 District. Let's give it up to our training manager, Sir Ronilo Palingcod. Let's give him a virtual resounding applause. Sir Ronelo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kubay, Sir Paul. Salamat kayo, sir. Well, first things first, I want to say hi to all our participants today, the junior high school English teachers coming from the Congressional District 1 of the province of Bohol. I also want to extend my warmest greetings to the members of the Team CD1 Junior High School. Of course, first is my colleague, the secondary school principal 1 of Ambassador Pablo R. Suarez High School in Carmen 3 District, Ma'am Marilu Arbasto, and to all our very competent resource speakers coming from the different schools in the division of Bohol. Again, a pleasant day, everybody. Well, in order for a virtual event to serve its purpose, it's very, very important that we lay down rules, not only for the main players, I'm referring to our resource speakers to follow, but also to all of you here, our attendees who are watching right now. It is expected that you, the participants, also need to do your share so this activity will be successful. The first point that I'm going to emphasize here is interact and learn. Again, the first point here is interact and learn. It's important that you let us know your presence. Let us know that you are actively listening by posting relevant text or clarifications or whatever questions you have in mind on the chat box. Also, you're also encouraged to interact with other participants in there on the chat box so as to make friendships, di ba? This is also a chance for us to make uh, acquaintances because wamata makaila sa ibang participants sa CD1. Questions will be answered on the later part after the session, that is during the Q&A session. This is to maintain a smooth flow all throughout and not to disrupt our speakers. You're also encouraged to share your unique experiences while listening to the session. Again, that is using the chat box. Please note that the success of this activity, again, depends much on your cooperation or participation. Next one is active listening. Active listening is very important. How do we know that someone is uh, actively listening to us in the face-to-face setup, di ba? We have to make sure that our listeners or our audience are having or are maintaining eye-to-eye contact with us in this scenario, in this virtual scenario. Um, One way to gauge if someone is actively listening is that when that person asks questions, when that person reflects back from what being said, or when that person asks a probing question or whatever that person has in mind. Again, I encourage everyone to post anything relevant using the chat box. And to do this, you may use the I statements. Next, in this setup, all ideas are valid. Um, so you are free to post whatever you have in mind, whatever you think is relevant on the chat box. Please note to critique ideas, not people. Again, critique ideas, not people. Finally, show everyone here that you are a person who has respect towards other people. Be mindful of your microphones. Make sure that you are muted when someone is talking or discussing. During the question and answer portion, please tap the raise hand icon or emoticon and wait for your name to be recognized. Um, One speaker policy at a time must be observed, and please ask questions politely. Again, if you have questions, please ask questions politely. We're all teachers here. This is self-explanatory. Again, I'd like to stress, uh, be polite and be respectful. Treat what you hear today as an opportunity for you to learn and grow as a teacher. I think that's all. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and you all have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Ron, for giving us a real comprehensive list of norm settings. And I'm sure our teachers are able to internalize everything and you keep that in mind so that our proceedings will be smooth and will be progressive. All right. So without further ado, at this point in time, let us call in another member of the training team to give us the mechanics and the program schedule matrix. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it away to the faculty member of Pilar National High School, Sir Ray Marvin Lambos. Let's welcome him with a resounding virtual applause. Sir
Thank you,
Marvs.
Dr. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Greetings of love and peace to everyone, especially to my big bosses in DepEd Bohol, also to my fellow technical working group members, and to the rest of the participants for CD1 junior high school teachers, as emphasized by Dr. Paul Kubay. Now, in the book of Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, the seventh habit is sharpening the saw, which means preparing ourselves even further before embarking on the main business. On that very note, allow me to set the tone even further by presenting to you the program mechanics and program matrix. Next slide, please, Sir Paul. Okay, please take note that you are joining via Zoom, and as an attendee of this virtual platform, you can participate the question and answer segment by raising your hand using the icon or unmute your mic and start to speak. And to avoid these distractions, the host of this platform may mute all the members and unmute only those who raise their hands to give their questions. You can also type your question in the chat box and the moderator will read it for the speaker to answer. Next slide, please. Now for the session outputs, you can upload it in your school folder in the Google Drive. Output link per session will be posted in the group page CD1 TGCIP for junior high school teachers. And in uploading your outputs, please follow the name of your file or filing mentioned below. So session number underscore family name and first name initial underscore the name or the initial of your school. Again, please take note that in uploading your outputs, you follow the format stated below. Session number, you can screenshot this particular slide. Session number underscore family name, first name initial underscore the initial of your school. Next slide, please. So this is our official Facebook page, CD1 TGCIP for junior high school English teachers. Now, for those who are not yet members of this particular Facebook page, I invite you to contact or kindly reach Dr. Paul for more information or for information relative to joining of this Facebook page. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the program schedule matrix. Please take note that for the entire duration of our webinar, on September 8 to 10, we will be having at least six sessions, and there will be outputs in every session. Every day, we are expected to finish at least 2 sessions. Next. I'll mention lang the title so that there will be element of surprise. But please take note nga, the topics are really very essential for us as English teachers. Next slide, please, Sir Paul. Okay, we are now in the opening preliminary, and our closing program will be on Friday, September 10, 2021 at 4 to 5 p.m. But the final submission of outputs will be on September 20. Again, please take note that you cannot receive your certificate for participation if you will not accomplish all the expected outputs for you. Okay, and to end my part, allow me to share a very beautiful line from American author Brian Herbert. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. My fellow teachers, may we all choose to learn something this morning and onwards. Thank you and a pleasant morning to everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Marvin, for giving us the mechanics and PSM. I'd like to highlight the saying that is very timely in this webinar. All right, So I guess our participants now are ready because we are now closer to the main event. But to delay the suspense, I would like you to have this pre-test. All right. This is a 15-item assessment mechanism to make sure the participants' prior knowledge on the theories and principles of communicative language teaching or CLT. So please answer wholeheartedly all the questions within a duration of 10 minutes. Thank you and God bless. So I will be providing here the link of the pretest. So I'd like you to take a screenshot of this and you can go through the browsers and you'll be directed to the Google Forms and you will accomplish this pretest in 10 minutes. So no negotiation, it's 10 minutes. And right after the 10 minutes, we're going to start our session. All right, so take a screenshot of this one and I will be revealing now the timer for you to start the countdown for 10 minutes. All right, here we go. So I presume everyone is able to take a screenshot of that. All right, so now you have your phone, you have your computer laptop to screenshot this link so that you can type it on your own. And now we have to start the 10 minutes.
Yes.
right, so that ends our pre-test. I hope that you answered it well through the link. Anyway, if we're not able to answer that, if you get lower score, it doesn't really affect your acquisition of the certificate. It is just a gauge how far you know before the main session will be discussed by our speaker. And you will learn along the way as you go through the different sessions, the 6 sessions for the 3 day. All right. And now let's, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to introduce to you our first speaker, our session 1 speaker, but allow me to read his credentials. All right. So he graduated his Master of Arts in English at University of Bohol at Mania Cum Laude. He earned the 36 units at the same university in his PhD Educational Management for a postgraduate study. He is a former English teacher and a school paper advisor of Bohol International Learning Center. He is also, or he was a former English department head, languages and literature department of Crystal E College, a former senior high school coordinator of Inabanga High School. He is also a current research coordinator of Inabanga North District. And for his awards and recognitions, he received Pasidungog in 2015 award. He also a Saludo 2021 awardee. Ladies and gentlemen, the school in charge of Inabanga North Central Integrated School, Inabanga North District. Let us give a virtual round of applause to our first speaker for session 1 this morning, Sir Felix Anyasco. Sir, good morning.
All right, good morning, Sir Paul. Thank you for that generous introduction. So please let me allow my screen to be shared as I will be giving my slides. And before I will start, let me also greet my friend who is also monitoring us here at the division office, Sir Linjon, boy sir, with our bosses there in the division. Sir Linjon, how are you there? And to all my friends in CD1, good morning to each and every one of you. So, let me share first my video. All right. So once again, good morning to each and everyone. So I believe we are all ready and set for this session. And by the way, as what was mentioned by our training manager and our TWGs, that we have 6 sessions, meaning for this 3-day activity, we have 6 sessions and mine is just the first. So I hope you will be with me along the way as we shared to you the ideas and concepts, which of course, as what Sir Bianito A. Dagatan has reiterated, that this would be a sort of a review or a refreshment or an enhancement to what we already have as English teachers in the Department of Education. So I do hope that we will enjoy this session, and please take every detail. It might be very much useful to your teaching. Okay. So for session 1, this is what we're going to talk about. What does teaching grammar communicatively involve? What does it involve? Do you have any idea? Or do you already have applied this TGC in your teaching when it comes to teaching your students about grammar? Probably most of us are already doing it, right? So for our objectives, we have this at the end of the session. The participants or you will be able to, of course, demonstrate understanding of the communicative grammar teaching. Okay, or some would say communicative language teaching, or the CLT. Enabling objectives, at the end, you will also be able to explore the difference between language acquisition and learning. What really is the difference between acquisition and learning? Then examine the basics of several methods and approaches under this, what we call as the CLT. You will also be discussing, after this session, you will be able to discuss how these inform the characteristics of a communicative language lesson and reflect on what we've discovered by exploring a CLT grammar activity. By the way, we have a lot of activities that may be involved as we apply CLT in teaching grammar to our students. So what you should have with you as we go through this session, you will have a follow along document. By the way, this follow along document will be uploaded in our FB group, official FB group. Sir Ray Marvin has mentioned to you the name of our FB group. So there is an area there for the files. I will just be uploading this follow along document there, together with also the assignment or the output, which of course, as you will click the link for the submission of output, you will have to choose the specific link that is there in your screen for session 1. So you just have to select the right folder for that particular output wherein you will upload or save your assignment or output. All right. And of course, the list of references will also be uploaded in the FB group of the CD1 TGIB. Okay. So group. Now, let's go to the meat of our discussion. Let me ask you, my dear teachers in the Congressional District 1, English teachers in the junior high school. Of course, you were very much trained already when you were yet in your baccalaureate degrees and your college years and postgraduate studies. So there are so many theories and concepts about teaching grammar, about teaching language, and yet questions are still arising. What really is the best way or the best approach in order for us to teach our students how to speak? Because sometimes at the end of a particular day or at the end of a particular competency or an I plan that we're making, targeting our students to speak, sometimes we get frustrated. Why? Because some of our students might not be able to do or perform what we want them to perform based on the competency that we are targeting for them to acquire. So what's the difference then between language acquisition and language learning? So for us to be enlightened, give up a rationale about the difference between language acquisition and language learning, please try to view this video and reflect upon its message. All right, so that was the video about the rationale of the difference between language acquisition and language learning. So from that video, you might have called out different concepts or different ideas regarding language acquisition and language learning. So we have here two groups of concepts, two groups of ideas that were from that video that we have watched. So from the in the first column, we have here this set of phrases: subconscious process. Then we have also unaware of grammatical rules, happens naturally. They repeat what is said and get a feel for right and wrong. The child needs a source of natural communication. What do you think is that? Is it acquisition or learning? Hmm? All right. So you might as well discuss that also to your co-teachers there, co-English teachers there who are also participating in this webinar. How about in the column number 2? We have here these items. They usually have a basic knowledge of grammar, direct instruction in the rules, and presupposes learners have a conscious knowledge of the new language and can talk about that knowledge, which of course we call as metacognition. So which do you think between these two columns, these two groups of concepts talks about acquisition and talks about learning when it comes to language? Okay, please share that to your co-teachers there as you are joining with this webinar. And let's try to find out. All right, what do you use when teaching? Is it acquisition or is it learning? Are you exposing your students to a subconscious process of learning the language, or you are presupposing or you are trying to tell them the basics of grammar so that they would acquire the language, especially when it comes to the structure of these sentences and how these are being formed? Or are you particular with the unawareness of the grammatical rules of our learners, but then they are allowed to speak no matter they commit errors or not? Or you would be very strict in giving direct instruction in the rules that whenever they commit a mistake, that would be a mistake. Therefore, they should correct it. And these are the things that are very common to our daily classroom experiences. These are very common when we do the teaching and learning process as we let our students learn or acquire a language. What do we really do? Did we let our students acquire the language, or did we let our students learn the language? These are the two questions that are always popping up in our respective minds. So by this session, or through this session, through the concepts that we are going to discuss, we will be enlightened. Are we letting our students acquire something, or are we just letting them learn about something? And that something refers to language. So repeat what is said and get a feel for what is right and wrong and everything. So this is the difference between acquisition and learning. Now the comparison, let's have a specific comparison between language acquisition and language learning. So here, in the other side of this particular matrix, we have here the basis for our comparison between these two, whether it's acquisition or learning. Now, we have here for language acquisition. According to its meaning, it means picking up a language. Therefore, simply a learner or a child just picks up a language and use it. While in language learning, it means studying a language, meaning there are a set of rules, there are a set of guidelines, and they are tasked to learn so that they would know how to use that language. That's language learning. Then language acquisition focuses on practical knowledge. Therefore, when you say practical knowledge, as long as the students can use the language and who or she is speaking, then understood what he was saying, then that's just okay for language acquisition. However, for language learning, it is very important that they focus on theoretical knowledge, because again, they need to learn the theories. What makes that particular word, what makes that particular sentence correct, what makes that particular paragraph effective and ideal. That's language learning. And where did this language came from? All right, so that's how it is. For the method, In language acquisition, it's unconsciously done. It's implicit, meaning children or learners just unconsciously acquire the language. How do they unconsciously? When you talk about unconsciously learn or acquire the language, that means that we as teachers have this role of letting them experience in our daily activities as we go and meet our students in our class for a particular topic. It is very important that we let them experience how to talk, of course, using the language. Because once they talk using the language, eventually it becomes a part of their system. And if it becomes a part of their system, they would have an easy way of using the language. Now, for language learning, its method is being conscious. Students are conscious and it's explicit. Why? What makes them conscious? What makes the teacher also conscious of the learning of the students? Because we are the ones who give them and provided them the guidelines, the rules. And therefore, once they know these things, they study it. And by studying it, they learn. That's why we call it language learning. Okay? Now, for the situations, usually when it comes to language acquisition, students are just simply exposed to informal situations. Like teachers would also have a small group discussion probably with their students and then talk about something which is about the lesson or related to the lesson that they're discussing, and then just share ideas using the language, informal situations. Or you may also just let your students have an activity, a role play probably, like when you introduce your friend, what do you do? What would you say? Example. So these are informal situations. Formal situations, meaning you have to let them study a particular, that's for language learning notes, you study a particular script, let them memorize the script, and then let them perform it in a way that is somewhat accurate to what the situation is supposed to be, according to what we have shared to them based from the structure of the activity that we have given. Okay, so when you talk also about grammar, so for language acquisition, it does not use grammatical rules actually. It simply is for using the language freeway. No? So there are no obstacles, there are no box that would limit the students to speak, because grammatical rules is not being used or not being so emphasized in language acquisition. But of course, along the way, it will be acquired because they're using it. That's our target actually. So when you talk about acquisition learning, we do not really actually dispose grammar, but we are just simply using this particular approach in order for us to pave the way for students to learn or acquire grammar correctly and effectively. Okay, so for language learning, it uses grammatical rules. So grammatical rules, there are so many grammatical rules for English language, and I believe we as English teachers were very much trained already from our experiences about these grammatical rules. But then again, some of us might, of course, ask ourselves, how did I learn this? When I was yet a student, probably in high school or in elementary, we cannot remember when was the time. But then we learn how to speak the language. That's probably during the time when we are unconsciously learning it by using it in informal situations, such as like this, such as when we converse with the people around, with our bosses and with our teachers before. All right. Dependency for language acquisition, it depends mostly on the attitude. So when you talk about the attitude, meaning that is an important consideration whenever we give activities, whenever we share ideas to our students, especially in acquiring the language. Sometimes, again, if you happen to relate to this experience, like there are students actually who are afraid to talk in front of the class, or even when you just simply ask them to please say good morning and introduce your name, introduce where you came from, and then everything about you, just share. Sometimes they're so afraid of doing it. Why? Probably because of their anxiety or of their attitude during that day that they would have. They are so negative about doing it. Okay. But on language learning, it depends on the aptitude, meaning the capacity of the student to learn that certain theory, that certain grammatical rule, that certain language. So if you don't have that skill, it will be hard for you to learn the language. Or you may learn, but then it is not of the same facing compared to those who have higher aptitude than you or than that particular learner. So for order of learning, when you talk about language acquisition, it has a stable order of learning. When you talk about stable, it means there's no big change. Like you don't really have to start with simple and target the complications of things, but it's stable. Like you simply just provide them with a situation that makes them feel comfortable about using the language. That's how the order of learning in this communicative or language acquisition concept is. And in language learning, it starts from simple to complex order of learning, meaning we introduce these rules, and then once they have already mastered the rules, the theories that governs that rules, and then they move into its application. And in the application, that's where the complications come in. All right. And here we are as teachers will then guide them on how to do it so that they would learn the language itself. So that's how it is. So basically, upon just simply viewing this matrix here, and the comparison between these two, you can already have an overview of what is language acquisition and what is language learning. And then probably we will just realize, okay, I probably will have to refocus my direction to this manner of teaching my students in learning or acquiring the language, or I may just enhance my teaching to these learners that I have because I've already been doing this. Then that's good. It's all up to you actually, because we are, of course, we teach what we believe, right? Why does it matter then if we know the difference? Hmm? Why does it matter then if we know the difference? It's like drinking a Coke. Somebody asks you, you haven't drank any soft drinks or something like in the same kind. Like someone would, you're so attached to Coke, all right? So for this simple analogy, we drink Coke, okay, because it's tasty. And then here comes a friend who asks you, why is it that you're always drinking Coke? What's the reason? Because it's tasty. And why is it that you're not drinking this other type of drink? Well, I don't know. I just know that Coke is tasty. So see, we would not feel the difference upon these things, and we would not know that there is something better. That's why we will have to know the difference of this acquisition and learning to know what is better for us to apply in our daily teaching, in our daily delivery of lessons. So our learners would eventually acquire the language. So sharing your grammar teaching stories. I know you have so many grammar teaching stories. You may share that in our chat box. So our TWG will just view this one, and later on, we might probably use that in our Q&A and in our sharing regarding this CLT or communicative language teaching. So what would be your stories? What are your experiences in teaching grammar to your students? Have you experienced like students who really don't stand up and just sit down and just say, just let me write, sir, and I wouldn't just talk in front because I'm quite shy. Okay, or there's some who are actually the way we give oral examinations or oral activities, probably we experience our students to just volunteer and say something about themselves, and then without knowing they're right or wrong with the grammar. So upon using the language, and then their students might be laughing and something like that, but still he wouldn't be shy to do it. So there are so many things, or there are so many stories that we have when we teach grammar. And these actually are very fun. And sometimes it's quite challenging because, of course, as English teachers in the Department of Education, we are the forerunners of this. So we need to let them know and acquire the language. It has to be effective. It has to be, because there are those students of ours who are so good into writing or so good in answering tests, but then when they're asked for an interview or when they're asked to share their ideas, they feel less confident upon doing it. Okay? So we need to nurture that, and we need to target and answer that particular gap of this language learning. So what is the most important thing in teaching grammar? Is it if our students memorize all the rules, and when they ask them to answer a test, finding errors, they know the errors? Or is it when they can use the language conversationally? So these are things that may be coming out from our minds as teachers. Okay, so the answer would be teaching grammar communicatively. So when you say communicatively, it means that is functional, it's operational. What's the use when you know all the rules and then you cannot communicate it? When you know how to speak, but then you don't know how to let your listener understand what you say. When you know how to write, but then the idea of what you have written is not as effective as those who are good at it. So teaching grammar communicatively is, of course, an important thing. That this should be something that is built in our hearts as English teachers, so that at the end of the year, or even when during in the graduation, like they would be thankful to you, like, sir, ma'am, thank you for teaching us how to speak up. Thank you for teaching us how to be confident, because these are some of the hidden um, learnings that they will get beyond their speaking engagements. They feel confident of themselves because they can communicate using their language. So teaching grammar communicatively. So these are based on the idea that language is best learned through communication, not via the mechanical presentation of grammatical forms. Meaning, according to TGC, language is learned through communication, not by memorizing the grammatical forms of, or technically, the technicalities and the mechanical presentation of these forms. Which, of course, because of this, it has led to a shift from form-focused instruction to meaning-focused instruction. Okay, so when you say form-focused, that means the structure, the technicalities of the instruction. Now we shifted to focus, a meaning focused instruction, meaning the meaning of that particular word, the meaning of what why we are doing is the focus of this TGC, or teaching grammar communicatively. So I hope you're still with me, my dear participants, regarding this teaching grammar communicatively. So once again, with all these things, you might take note and screenshot the slide so that you will have notes there. If you feel comfortable doing that way, that would be okay. Okay. Communicative approach. What is it? Students are given tasks to accomplish using a language. Mhm. So the tasks that we as teachers will be providing our students are focused on using the language. Therefore, it has less emphasis on studying the language. So it's more on experiencing using it rather than studying it first and then use it. So that's a communicative approach. Its main goal because is to be able to communicate in target language, meaning it's just simply for communication. Meaning, as long as our students can communicate using the language, that's the goal of the communicative approach. So with this, the syllabus would be based from this functional development, meaning asking permission. Like, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, may I go out? Mhm. Sir, can I do this? Can I do that? What does this mean? So if students can just simply express these thoughts, so that's already better. That's good for them. Eventually, it will become built in. It will become part of them, the system. Then they will just know if that's right or wrong. Just like in the video, right? Like the children, they didn't know the rules in speaking the vernacular, but still, upon using the language, eventually they would learn the correct way of arranging the words, because they hear it from their parents, from their father, from their caregivers, from their brothers and sisters, that okay, they're using it that way, so I should use it that way. Then they will realize that they have committed an error. So that's in a normal setup. Okay, so simply also by asking directions. Mhm. So through asking directions, students would do this like these are the focus, no, functional development. As long as they can do that, and even following directions and instructions as well. So our syllabus in this communicative approach would not be based on the structural development, like the past tense, the conditionals, subject verb agreement, and the like. It has less emphasis on error correction. Mhm. So it has less emphasis on error correction, meaning when your students say something and then you realize that there's something wrong, do not cut it. Okay, and instead you might as well just guide him or tell him that you can say it this way, or what do you mean, come again, and then do you mean that? So you repeat what he said in a way that is the correct manner, the correct manner of saying it. Okay, so yung ana lang, so that they would feel okay, that's how mom, that's how sir has used it, or has arranged the words in the sentence that I just used, and then there's an error. So probably in the next time that they will be saying such words or sentences, then they would apply what they have heard from you. So here comes now our roles as teachers. Like we should be the role models, meaning we should also talk to them using the language if we want them to learn or acquire the language. Okay, again, to acquire the language, because uh, how can they acquire it? They don't have any basis of which one is the correct way of saying it. So it should be us who guide them, who will tell them, who will use the language first, and then they will just simply listen, and then try to communicate with them in a conversational way that they are not so anxious about the situation. Okay, and we also have fluency and communication. According to communicative approach, fluency and communication is more important than accuracy. Do you believe in that? Hmm? That fluency and communication is more important than accuracy? Probably some in a different approach that we are using. But in the communicative approach, fluency and communication, these are more important than accuracy. It doesn't matter if there's a flaw in the way you speak, but as long as it's fluent, meaning it's understandable, your listeners can just hear what you're saying, the exact way of pronouncing the words. So that's good. And the communication, meaning there's understanding, there is comprehension. Sometimes it will be hard for us teachers because we follow like a certain rule on pronouncing a particular word that may be also hard for our students to listen. That's why sometimes we also have to evade and stay away from that rule, and then we will just use our way of saying it. Just like what my previous teacher has said, like you have to dress your language. It's okay for us here because we're all English teachers, but when we talk about students who are yet not of the same level as ours, then we might as well dress our language. Say, for example, when you ask a tricycle driver in Tagbilaran City, like there's a street there, if you happen to pronounce it, it should be Graham. But then for tricycle drivers, they're not so familiar with Graham as the pronunciation of that word. So in order for you to focus on the communicative side of it, you would just say, all right, Mr. Driver, pwede pahatod ko sa Graham Street, di ba? So that's how you say it, because you need to let them understand what you are saying. Even if you go to, because there's Agora, like Agora in Tagbilaran City in front of BQ before it's City Square. So imagine if you say to the multi-cab drivers, like, driver, please anhar ako sa Agora. Oh, di ba? Kay anhar gyud ka sa Agora, kay you want to say it the way it has to be said. So, but in the communication aspect, you may just actually dress your language. Like how they understood it, you use it the way it is. For our students, according to their level. If it is hard for them to really go with the correct way of pronouncing it, then just let it be. And later on, it will just follow. All right? Just like grammar, let it be. If there is an error upon saying these words, upon expressing these sentences, just let it be. Anyway, later, as they constantly use the language, they will just realize that they have committed a certain error upon using that language. And from there, they learn realistically because they are not first forced to learn it, because for them, it is functional. That's how communicative approach should be. That's how it is being made. So we have here an example of an activity that you might apply. Okay, so in your respective experiences or teaching experiences in your students or to your students, like a story with three tenses, you may simplify things like this. Of course, these are just some of the examples, right? So using Quizzner rods, create a simple scene to tell the park story. Just a simple scene. Okay. So first story is the present tense. The second is the past tense. And the third is the future tense. So you may also have alternative materials like the small objects. So colored paper cut out in rectangular shapes or pens, colored sticks, boxes, or any other small object. So these are some suggested materials that you might use instead of the Quizner rods, because Quizner rods are like boxes of different sizes wherein you classify the different concepts that you want your students to classify. So you can also have this like basic structure to build on. You have to set the scene. As teachers, we guide them. You ask your students, do you go to the park? Okay. So they would have this answer in their mind. Which park do you usually go to? And what do you do there? So these are some questions that would guide your students to come up with an idea of what to write or what to share. Okay. And guided by, of course, the tenses would just come follow. That's the grammatical aspect of it. But then upon reaching the grammatical aspect, you let them first think of something to tell. Okay. So as you place the object, ask what they are. Let's list them on the board. So objects, particularly the what and the where, park, gate, what they are. List them in this template and then draw the chart on the board. Use actions as you tell the story. So example, they put their park. What do you usually do in the park? Okay, I go to the park. If it's every day, what would be the correct way? Go. So things like this. So these are just to be presented. This is what we call the narrative story activity. Okay. In our case here, because it's pandemic, like it's very hard for us to really explain something like this. I just would like to share because let's try to be functional as well. Let's try to be practical as well of this communicative approach. If you happen to observe, our students nowadays are so exposed to TikTok, right? So are your students exposed to TikTok? Hmm? Yeah, most of them actually, right? So there are TikTok like challenges there wherein students are challenged to imitate how a particular speaker talks. So you can do that. Okay, that's for imitation. That's actually under learning, but then you can actually use that as well. And then later on, you will let them apply that uh, particular line in a realistic situation. Okay, and then you let them record it as a TikTok. Okay, so or something like a short for them. Or if you ask them to write to present a vlog using the English language, but again, please tell them that it's not necessarily that you have to use English all the time, but then it's better if you use it. But you can also introduce or you can also use vernacular for an ease of communicating. But at least we're exposing them in any way, right? So that's how it is. So it would look like this. So the present tense, the simple past tense, the future tense, these will the verbs that we will be presenting to our students that they might use along the way as they tell their story of simply by just going to the park. Of course, you can use any other situations as well. Okay. So this would be the way their output. Example, every day I look forward to listening to lessons. I go to the park, I open the gate, I walk in, I close the gate, I climb the tree, I smell the flowers, I look at the river, I sit on the bench, I read a book, I stand up, I open the gate, I close the gate, I go home. All right? So let us not complicate things. We just let them be doing that, saying these things. Okay? Students write the verb and where what of the sentence in the chart on the board. Then students will come up and tell the story. From the chart that we have presented in the previous slide, they will then base from it on how they're going to say or tell the story. Okay? And then you'll then shift. All right? So student A or group A, you tell the story, you find a representative to tell the story if you do it every day. And this group would tell the story if they do it yesterday. And this group would be telling the story when they do it on the next day. All right? And then video it if it's because it's pandemic. But if it's face to face, that's you can do that. Okay? You can let them do that. So each group of students say a bag of objects. Students tell and help each other tell stories in their groups, and they make up their own stories using a place that they know. So you can present like a gate, a picture of a gate, what they do, a book, and whatever, then guided by the idea that they are going to the park using or with these objects. What are they going to do with these objects? So that's narrative story activity. So expanding the grammar activity focus, so you can use this template for you to be guided and your students to have a guide on which on how to complete what where these objects, the objects will be here, the what and the where. Okay, we also have some games, no, grid games. So practicing subject verb agreement, and students will also practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing during the game. So can introduce that to them. And even sentence relay. By the way, this can be accessed through the resources from the follow along documents that you will receive. So from the sentence relay, here you did not really ask them to write a sentence that is so ideal, that's so good to hear. Like some words are very hard to understand as long as they use it, and then so you should not encourage them. Then you just ask them to write silly sentences. As long how do they arrange? Like you put you give them objects, and then you ask them to say something about it or a picture. Okay, then ask them to say something about it, like a silly sentence. So example, the crocodile ate a clock. So but it's the basically that's just how it is arranged, right? When we talk about grammar structure. But then for students, they are unaware that it's the way. So later on, as they keep on using this pattern, it's where we will introduce the structure. Meaning, this one is just an approach for us to go to that direction that students acquire the language, not necessarily letting them feel that they are learning, that they're studying. Because again, if you say, okay, please study this, they won't really do that because for them, studying is negative in their connotation. But then, when you talk about, please write a please submit a TikTok about this, blah, blah, blah. So they'll just do it, and then using the language, they didn't know that they're already acquiring the language. Okay, of course, yeah, through that particular activity that you have given to them. So games, okay, there are a lot of games that you might use in order for them. Just the concept is that expose them in a communicative situation. Okay, expose them in a communicative situation, not in a situation wherein they are asked to memorize something for them to understand and use the language. No, that would create anxiety. That's why they would be afraid of speaking in front, because they're afraid that they might commit a certain mistake upon saying or upon telling his or her stories. Example activity. Read this 9-page science article, write a detailed essay on the topic it explores, and turn it in by Wednesday. How do you assess this activity? Please discuss that on your co-teachers there who are with you. Is it an effective activity? Can our students be communicative using this activity? Hmm? If yes, why? If no, then why do you think so? Okay? So, all right. So it should not be. Why? Because there is no safety net. And I hope again we are no longer into this type of activity wherein we are just letting our students just do something, read an article, write an essay, and pass it without even guiding them. What really is your goal? They are just left on their own. Like in our probably in our learning modules, we will have to check it as well. Like, are we like giving just these instructions for our students to do, and then without giving them how are they doing it? The tendency is they would be afraid, they would have a negative notion to it because they feel that it's even 9 page. From the word 9 page, 9 page, and what will we do with it? Detailed essay, oh my god. And then when will we pass it? Wednesday. So this would create fear, and tendency it would cause procrastination. That's why sometimes, even how hard we demand our students to submit our activities on time, still they couldn't. I'm not saying that's always a teacher factor, but I'm saying that it's a possibility that our activities might be just as hard as this, that they cannot do it in a way that we wanted them to do it. And if we check it, how do you check this activity? What is our goal? Can we really measure our goal here if we use this activity? If we give this activity to them, right? It's hard for us to check it. And how, of course, with rubrics and etc. But then what really is our target? Okay, so there's no safety net. So avoid having it. Instead, use these techniques. So these are the techniques that are suggested in the communicative approach. So we have here scaffolding. So meaning you have to break up new concepts so that they can be learned more easily. Example, when you talk about in the picture there, so if it's a book, that's a concept, then instead break it up into new concepts that still talks about a book. What is it? What is it? If you happen to remember the movie, if you happen to watch the movie Three Idiots, like there was a scene there wherein the main character was sent outside the classroom because he did something, a definition of what was that definition, and then he defined it operationally because that's the way he understood how that particular term should be. But then the professor wanted him to define it according to its dictionary meaning it's very that the professor is very particular about the structure of the definition of it, right? So but then when he goes out, because he was sent out, he comes in, and then what he said, he forgot something. And what was that something? He defined it like blah 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 blah. What was that? The professor even didn't understand. And then he said it's a book. Imagine the professor was what? He was insulted during that time, right? So it should not be in that case for us. So here we need to, instead of giving them the concept in general, let's try to break it up into new concepts. By breaking it up into new concepts, students would learn that this is where I am going. Upon connecting the dots with these concepts that we have provided to our students, students will then try to build something new from it. And that something new from it is actually what we want them to learn. Okay? That's what we want them to learn from it. So scaffolding is that. Probably in our previous experiences when we were yet students, we often hear this scaffolding. But then again, sometimes because of our like daily activities that we do as teachers, we tend to forget about these concepts. But again, I know we are using this. We are using this. A lot of us are already using this, especially with the different trainings that we have. Scaffolding is very much emphasized on these matters. What else? So activities include how and tell activities in this scaffolding, like how and tell. You ask them, all right, kindly make an output or like draw something, and what will you do about that? Or you give them pictures, and then What you see in the picture, what is in it. Just simply let them share their ideas. Let them experience talking to you in front, using their own ideas without fear, right? Without fear. You may also use graphic organizers. How do you do that? When you talk about graphic organizer, for example, you want them to learn about literature. Okay, what is literature? Okay, so when you talk about literature, you ask them to define it first. Probably commonly, that's what we are doing. Literature is man's manifold experiences blended into one harmonious expression and blah, blah, blah. That might be how we do it. But then, okay, our students really, do our students really have understood what these meaning are? These meanings are from that word. So instead of doing it, probably you put the word literature, ask them to give words that relates to it. What word that comes out first from their mind when they hear the word literature? They would say book. What else? Poem. What else? So this would create an idea. They break up into specific concepts, and then you put them into graphic organizers. You have a lot of graphic organizers to be used. Now there are so many graphic organizers there available. So you might just browse from the internet. So you can use that in teaching or in letting your students acquire language. Of course, we do teach, okay, but it's not really for the sake of students to study the language, but for them to acquire the language. Let's try revisiting our beliefs. Okay, I know you have all different beliefs when it comes to teaching. But probably like when I am speaking here in front of you virtually, there are already some who are like, I don't really agree on it or whatever. There are some who would agree, right? So, but I'm talking about the communicative approach here. So let's try to also reflect on the beliefs that we have, whether it's true or false. Because again, if it's false, we probably are practicing the what? The wrong practice in teaching. Number one, the more time students spend soaking up English in the mainstream classroom, the faster they will learn the language. So meaning they're so soaked up with it that you let them do it every time. Is it easy or faster for them? True or false? What's your belief? Students do not simply just soak up language. They must understand the communication that is conveyed by their classmates and teachers. It's not just simply knowing the concept, it's not just simply knowing the rules, but it means understanding why or what is being said or what is being expressed. So that is on the comprehensible input, which is proposed by Stephen Krashen in 1981 and is widely recognized by today's researchers and practitioners, wherein, according to him, English language learners acquire language by hearing, okay, by hearing and understanding messages that are slightly above their current English language level. Meaning, they should hear it, they should understand it. There should be an opportunity inside our classroom or probably in our modules. There should be an activity there that would let them experience the opportunity of hearing and understanding a particular language. Okay? So, example for TikTok, you ask them to listen first. And then after listening, understand what does it mean, what is the instruction, and then they do what is instructed them to do. Meaning they already understood just simply by exposing from that particular TikTok challenge. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Next, the emotional state of the learner interferes with the acquisition of a new language. Do you believe in it? Like, if you are not so if you're not feeling well, or if I just don't like going to the classroom, I just don't like learning, I just don't like doing something, it interferes the acquisition of new language. Do you believe in it? my dear co-teachers in CD1, in the Department of Education? Is it true or false? What's your belief? Let's see. The emotional state of the learner interferes with the acquisition of a new language. That's what I said during when I presented the slide wherein there's a difference between language acquisition and language learning. Remember, in language acquisition, it depends on the attitude, not on the aptitude, right? So the attitude that may affect or that may refer to the emotional state of our learners. Therefore, if in any case you feel or you have observed that your student, upon giving such task to them, is not so ready for it, then do not force them. All right? Do not force them. Instead, explain to them or say something to them that would still give them the chance to do it in some other time. All right? So there's this affective filter, which means the learner's emotional state or affective filter can interfere with acquiring a new language because it involves public practice and speaking in front of others. So these skills require that the learner take a risk. This risk can produce embarrassment and anxiety that can block the learner's ability to process new information. Therefore, when our students experience anxiety because we are forcing them to speak their mind, we are forcing them to stand up and explain, we are forcing them to do this and do that, but then they didn't feel like doing it because they are probably in an emotional state that is not fitted to that particular activity that you're giving to them. Therefore, it just simply, instead of hitting the target, you are what? You are already being destructive. It no longer is effective. Meaning that's a crime for us teachers. Okay? So once we let our students feel anxious about learning or acquiring English as a language that they have to learn, that's a crime for us. We need to answer that one. We need to let them love English. But again, it's easier said than done. I'm not saying that we can do that after this session, after this webinar that we have for 3 days. I didn't mean that by Monday we can already transform into one, but it's a process. It's normal. It's normal. That's normal to all of us. Okay, as long as we are open, as what Sir Marvin has said in the preliminaries, like the willingness to learn. It's a choice. Okay, and our willingness to apply the things that we learn here today is a choice for us. All right, it's a choice. Children who have the ability to memorize grammar rules and complete pages of grammar drills will learn to speak and write English more quickly. Is it true or false? Children who have the ability to memorize complete pages drills will learn to speak and write English more quickly. Now, accordingly, children acquire a second language through a subconscious process during which they are unaware of grammatical rules. This is similar to how they acquired their first language, meaning they just simply do not just memorize it, but they get a feel for what is and what isn't correct by using the language, by a subconscious way of acquiring it by hearing others who say this or use these languages. So the learner needs a source of natural communication. And who are these natural communication? At home, they have their parents or their caregivers, their guardians. And of course, at school, we also have the teachers, their friends, right? So they need to have a source of natural communication. They can get on the job practice by communicating with their classmates. So if you ask them or if you give them activity that enables them to communicate with each other, that in a way they will acquire the language. Children learn a second language faster, more easily than teenagers and adults do. Do you believe in that? That children are better when it comes to, or faster when it comes to learning a second language than us adults or teenagers? True or false? There's what we call as the optimum age. So according to this concept, the statement of having the children better or faster in acquiring second language compared to adults or teenagers is that Young children were compared with teenagers and young adults. The teenagers and young adults learn a second language more readily. Why do you think so? Because children under the age of 8 may outperform adults in the areas of social language. By the way, when you talk about social language, that we call as the social linguistic side of communicative language teaching. Okay? The social linguistic side of communicative language teaching. When you talk about the communicative language teaching or the social linguistic, we care for the social aspect, meaning the environment, and the pronunciation, because they usually have more occasions to interact socially, right? Children, accordingly, like have these experiences more than adults. Of course, for us English teachers, it's different. It's a different story because we're so exposed to English, right? Of course, we could perform better than them. However, for adults who are not really into English, if you ask them to study about it, if you ask them to acquire English as part of their second language, it would be easier for children compared to adults who are not so exposed to it. Meaning it's the exposure and how they use it. Adults do not usually use it, especially in our area, because we are using the vernacular. But for children, they usually are exposed to it. Example, they watch Cocomelon, they watch Peppa Pig, they watch whatever movies that like are English. So they're so exposed to it, meaning they're exposed to it socially, like how they use it in using with their together with their classmates or their friends. We teach what we believe. Do you believe in that, right? If we believe that this is the right thing, of course, that's how we teach. Because I believe that this is the thing that I should do this. All right? Students need to know the form. Okay, some would say yes or no. Drilling is the best form of practice. We believe in this. Some wouldn't believe in it. Students need explanations of how grammar works. Probably there are some of us who are into it. Some of us do not really delve into it. It's good to memorize structures like subject verb agreement, STVDO, STVIODO, SLV pattern, SIV. So there are so many patterns, structure. Remember the what you call the sentence diagramming thing during our elementary years and high school years? We have that. We memorize how these words are used in this sentence by diagramming. So memorizing the structure. Translation leads to accuracy, meaning from vernacular like libro translated to book in English. Does that lead to accuracy? Do we believe in that? So these are things that we believe. Students learn from their mistakes. Okay, we might also believe that, okay, if they committed something wrong and they realize it's wrong from hearing somebody who says it correctly, then they would learn that it's a mistake and then they will acquire the correct way of saying it. That might be one of our beliefs. Therefore, again, it's a challenge for us teachers if we believe in it, because we need to also use the language when we are inside the classroom if we want them to be exposed to the language itself. If not, all the time, it's okay. Again, here, it's not always English, right? As long as they connect, they could understand. And then eventually, they will just use it fluently. So 2 methods and 1 approach. Which do you think among these 3 is the methods and which one is the approach? When we refer to grammar rules, in the first column, or in the second column, they're labeled number 1, central feature. In the second, and the third, which is labeled number 2, not explained. In the third, the number 3 column, nothing is in there, meaning it's not necessary. For meaningful communication, not important in column with label number 1, limited in column with label number 2, and central feature. Imagine that in column 1, meaningful communication is not important. In number 2, it's limited, meaning it's not very much focused. While in number 3, it becomes the central feature. Which do you think is the method and the approach there? Use of translation. In number 1, it's the central feature, meaning translation is the focus. In number 2, it's forbidden. No, you should not use translation. Okay. In number 3, it's not necessary. So you can see the difference among these 3. Teacher-student roles. Well, number 1 and 2, both are teacher-centered, meaning we are the star, we are the light that shines brightly in the eyes of our children. Do you want that to happen? Like, oh, mom and sir are the best people inside the classroom. Okay? So sometimes we become the best, but then when we go out, we're still the best. Our students are not developing. Okay, so it's not so good, no? So, however, number 3, the teacher facilitates for students to interact. They would interact among themselves, and then attitude to errors, accuracy is emphasized in number 1, and number 2, it's also emphasized, meaning they need to be accurate in what they do. While in number 3, it's not necessary. Okay? And in language skills emphasize, so in 1 and 2, it does not emphasize language. So while in number 3, skills are taught according to learners' needs. Meaning, when there's a need for students to learn such language, then such skill for that language, then we need to integrate. That's in number 3. Now, which do you think is or are the methods and which is the approach? Is it 1 and 2 or 3? Is it 1, which is the approach? Is it 2 and 3 the method? So it's up to you. Let's try to know it. All right. These are the methods, and this is the approach. We have here the grammar translation method and the audio lingual method. And we have here the third one, which is the approach, the communicative language teaching. So as you can see in the grammar translation, we use grammar as the central feature of our teaching. Meaning, we ask our students to study about grammar because that's the central feature. For audio-lingual method, it's not explained. It doesn't matter if you're correct or not grammar in the grammar rules, but as long as you can produce the sound correctly. Meaningful communication, it's not that important, limited to audiolingual, but in CLT or the communicative language teaching, it's the central feature. Meaning, the meaningful communication is the focus of the CLT. Use of translation. By the way, for the grammar rules in CLT, take note, it is only explained when necessary. When would that happen? Example, when you ask your student to introduce his or herself, okay, in front of the classmates during the first day of classes, then or in front of something like this, like you want them to record because it's pandemic, like you want them to record how they introduce themselves. So sometimes they commit error, sometimes they do not. There are students who do not commit. There are students who also commit one. So when the time that they commit an error about it, then that's where we will explain to them. Okay? Yes, thank you. I understand what you're things like that. Okay? But as much as possible, they should not be insulted in the words that we are giving to them. Okay? Because again, remember, in a communicative approach, attitude or the emotional state matters most, or it matters. Okay? Use of translation, central feature forbidden, and in CLT, it is only used when necessary. Okay? Only used in necessary. If there's no need for translation, then why not? Okay? So teacher-student roles. So in CLT, it's the teacher who acts as facilitator for students to interact. We do not just are there to just talk. All right? And then students will just simply answer with activities that we're giving to them. Right? But it's more on students talk, students experience, they acquire, and then later on, that's where we will assess. Okay? That's for the teacher-student roles. For errors, in the CLT, errors are part of the process. Okay? It is understood. Let's put that in our minds. Errors are part of the process. We cannot be perfect unless we commit an error. How did we know that we are right if we didn't know what's wrong? Right? So that's the thing. That should be in our minds because we teach language. We teach English. Right? So if we don't put that in our minds, that errors are part of the process, we are so strict. We would be like that teacher who will always listen. And if we hear something who says something wrong, giingon nila, mutagning ang atong danggan. Oops. Di ba? Wrong pronunciation. Oops, wrong grammar. Or we say grammatically wrong. Diba? So, but in the communicative language teaching, errors are just part of the process. It's understandable for us teachers to be particular with these errors because we are the ones who look into errors. But for students, they should not feel that committing an error is a sin, but it should be something that is a stepping stone, which is part of the process upon acquiring that particular language. Okay? Now, for language skills, reading and writing are being emphasized here in grammar translation because, of course, grammar translation, like, you know, the structure, the spelling, the punctuation. So that is in reading and writing. Audiolingual, meaning listening. They can comprehend what they've heard effectively and speak words fluently. Okay? For CLT, it's taught according to the learner's need. Okay? So if there's a need for students to write, but so to express their ideas, let them write. If there's a need for students to read so that they would learn another skill in order to speak, they need to read first in order to share something, let them read. That depends upon the needs of the students. You can just simply let them listen if they didn't even know what's the correct pronunciation of that. Example, if you'll ask them to say, like flower, diba? So you say flower, flower. So it has the same when you talk about its transcription. However, there are two spelling of that. So you have not, you should not let your students be confused. Okay? Instead, what is needed, then that's what we will be targeting. Mabitaw na nga, sometimes it's very important, or not sometimes, maybe most of that, every time, it's really an important thing for us to have this pre-test or diagnostic test to our students so that we'll have an idea of which part or which skill are they good at and which skill is lacking, so that it's where we will base our approach. It's very important to have that. Okay, so it maybe is an add-on to our, what you call this, our task as teachers, but then it will be something that is actually an answer to our problems that time when we check the activities of our students. Why? Because we might be giving activities that are not really effective for that kind of learner. So contextualization is still very important. Although we are similar modules released by our LR, but still, as teachers, we have the prerogative also, no, to explain to our students what does that mean. Does it mean that since it's from the central office, it's from the division office, that okay, we should not change this one because it's from the LR, it's from the central office. But then if it is not fitted here, at least there's a need for explanation probably. No, do not just leave your students clueless of what to do, because they might not be aware of what is it. And that's true in our case here in Bohol, right? So there are students who really cannot or who do not experience so many things that are experienced by other provinces or by cities. Okay, so a method is as these are the this is the difference between method and approach. Okay, so when you talk about method, it is a specific set of procedures. Take note, set of procedures, meaning there's something that you need to follow based on a particular theory. It dictates which strategies are important and which kind of activities to choose. That's method. Okay, you may actually just use method. You incorporate method and approach. Okay, it doesn't mean that that method is that the focus of that method is that, so I should not use it. I'll just focus on this method. You can integrate. Okay, that's the purpose of presenting these things actually to you, right? So an approach then is about beliefs and theories of acquisition and learning. Beliefs, it does not necessarily mean that we have to follow step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, memorize this, memorize that. It doesn't matter. But for a method, there are steps, right? We need to follow. Therefore, that makes approach broad in scope. It may encompass more than one method, meaning an approach may contain different methods in order for it to be effective. That's why I told you It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to left this method out and choose this method in, or just this approach. But again, an approach may be encompassing more than one method. Therefore, there are underlying methods in order for that approach to be holistic and in order for that approach to be effective for students to acquire language. Take note, acquire, not necessarily just learn, because there are students who are so good in writing, right? They may pass aptitude tests, but then if you are exposing them to interviews, they fail. Why? Why do you think so? Meaning they're so good in the structure. They're so good at finding the errors of the sentences that are being presented there in some items. Then they know that that's erroneous. But then if they ask about an idea about themselves to share during the interview for that particular example, if there's a scholarship, it would be hard for them. So that's where the problem comes in. That's the gap that we are trying to fill in here in the teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines, okay? Particularly in the division of Bohol. So, is communicative language teaching then in teaching grammar a method or an approach? What is it? Is it approach or method? Communicative language teaching approach. Therefore, it's an approach. And what is it focusing on? So, the communicative approach focuses on the use of language in everyday situations. Take note, use of language in everyday situations. Now, I know because we are all junior high school, but in the elementary, they have this mother tongue based education. That's probably why the Department of Education have included that in the curriculum for the early years in the elementary, because the target of language learning is to let them know how to use it. And the practical language that students use in these early years is, of course, the vernacular or the mother tongue. That's why it's being incorporated. And from that, they will learn how to use the language and comprehend, okay, the meaning behind the language, beyond the language, behind the words. So in junior high school, it is understood already that our students have prior knowledge about the language. It's only exposing them to use the language. Okay? It's only exposing them to activities that would lead them to use the language and understand the language. Okay? So, let them hear something, let them watch a conversation. Like example, in one of our demonstrations, way before when I was asked to demonstrate, I used a conversation about an anime. So like Naruto and the Hokage. So students are very interactive because they know Naruto and the Hokage because they know the anime. So because I know them that they're also aware of it. So that's why I use it. So in your case, know your students, what they like, and then find situations that might be included in your activities so that they can apply their knowledge about using the language. That's how it is. Okay? So, on the functional aspects of language, functional. Okay? Why is it that seafarers need to learn or need to acquire English as their second language? Why is it that it's important for junior high school students to learn how to use English? I mean, to acquire language itself, being part of them. Okay? So, and learn on the formal structures. It gives priority to meanings and rules of use rather than to grammar and rules of structure. Meaning, meanings and rules so that it be useful. It doesn't, that's how it focuses. What's its focus. But in some other approach, grammar and rules are being used for the structure, no? For the sake of students learning about the structure. But in this communicative approach, we are using the meanings and rules for students to use the language. See the difference? Okay, I hope you see the difference if you get the point. So communicative language teaching, or CLT, learners learn a language through using it to communicate. So there are some students like are not so good in speaking when they're at our classroom, right? But then later on, we noticed like they actually learn how to speak one, how to use the language. Then we then learn as we go on with our observation about of that student, we might learn that they probably have like a friend who is a foreigner. Then they are speaking they're using English during their conversation, and then eventually that student of yours would learn or acquire the language and use it communicatively. So through using it, through using it, at least we can ask them, when you talk to us, at least speak in English. So I could also speak in English as an answer or as a response of your question if you will be asking. If you'll be asking for something like, ma'am, where do I get our good moral because I want to enroll? So things like that. So also CLT focuses on the authentic and meaningful communication. It should be the goal of classroom activities. Again, it should be the goal of classroom activities. It should not be just like, okay, um, subject verb agreement, fill in the blank. You blank is are beautiful. Is, oh, that's wrong. You should do it again. So, but then at least you should ask them to what is the right, and you let them say such sentence. Okay. There are probably instances wherein you happen to hear your student speak fluently, but then it's hard for them to write accurately, right? So being accurate and being fluent is different. They're fluent in speaking, they're fluent in using the language. However, they're not so accurate in writing. There also are so very accurate in writing, but then it's hard for them to speak. So you have to answer that, because in English, writing and reading is part of the 4 macro skills. And we need to let them acquire these skills as a whole, so that acquiring the language is effective, so that they could use it effectively in their communication. Remember, that's an edge, no, for our students if they have the language. That's why it's fortunate that we are English teachers, because sometimes, like when somebody will be asking for, I don't know if it's something fortunate or a curse for us, like when there's a program, right? When there's a program, the first person that they will be looking for is an English teacher to host the program. Why? Because they believe that we are good in using the language, therefore we are the best fitted to it. But then it should not be the case, because teachers should also be, because we are all teachers and we have undergone the basics of English. Why is it that the other majors are not given that chance? Diba? There might be some of them who are also good at doing it. And it's true. There are already actually some hosts nowadays that are not even English teachers, that are not even English majors, but then they are so good and fluent in using the language. That's why they are good in hosting or in speaking engagements. So because while they were students, they have acquired the language. They just didn't learn it, but they acquired it. Okay? By being exposed to it. So if we teachers also wanted ourselves to be developed, sometimes I know there are also some of us who are afraid to really host in front of many people. But then if we want to develop ourselves, just like our students, we expose ourselves to it. We expose ourselves to it. Once we are exposed to it, it becomes natural. It becomes a habit. It becomes a part of our system. And when they call us, they will just eventually, you will just eventually say, okay, yeah, yes, I will do it. And it becomes just natural, right? So because you keep in using it. Now, because of the pandemic, I know the opportunity for us to use the language is just very rare, no? Because to whom are we speaking? We cannot speak to our husband and wife using English as our language. And we don't have any opportunity to also speak to our students because we are just simply sending modules. But then again, during the follow-up, probably we can introduce that one. We can find some ways for us to communicate. So another, in CLT, fluency is an important dimension of communication. Fluency. That's why there's an area in our college years which focus about oral communication or speech, right? Because from the words that we are using, we have to know the pronunciation of these words so that we become fluent. And even the facing, right? Even the facing. But again, in our case, we cannot just also follow the standard if we are facing students who are not even so exposed to the standard. But then if we become one of their standards as well, it's good also that we from time to time we make use of the standard way of pronouncing the word so that they would also hear it from you directly. Because if you happen to let them listen to like native speakers, it's very fast, and like students might not follow the phasing of their speaking, no? So that's what we should also consider. Next, learning is a process of creative construction and involves trial and error. Mhm. So it's a process, meaning creative instruction. You cannot be creative if there's already a set of rules, right? So becoming creative means letting students experience commit an error. And from that experience of committing an error, it's not necessarily mean that we have to force them to commit an error, huh? But then it does, if they commit an error, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? So they need to experience that. If there's a need for them to experience it to learn, then that's good. Okay? So we should not just be very strict about, okay, you should do this, you should do that. And if you commit wrong, because that's wrong, you should be paired with are, not is. That's not what it is. So eventually they will be afraid of speaking in front of you again. No? There would be a meme. Are you familiar with it? That the memes here in Facebook, like my math teacher, my English teacher. They have different facial expressions that will represent the way you teach them. Okay? So my MAPI teacher, Anna. So there are so many expressions that they will be inventing because of how we teach them. So if we want them to envision us, if we want them to imagine us in a pleasing way, then let us also try to be pleasing to them in teaching them. All right? Learning is a process. So therefore, the committing an error is part of it. So benefits of using CLT. So CLT focuses on communicative competence, meaning we are simply just into students being communicative in its sense, okay? Not because we want them to really be speakers, we want them really to be debaters, we want them really to be what? Call center agents or etc. But then we just want them to be communicative, meaning they can share their ideas using the language effectively and they can understand what others also say using the language. That's the basic. It's as simple as that. Why make things complicated, right? Although the competencies would lead to the complications, but then it's up to us teachers who would make it simpler, make it enjoyable, make it functional for our students. It's not like we are forcing them to do it, but we should let them feel that they have to do it because that's the thing that they need for them to proceed to the next level of their journey, being a professional, or when they have their when they have their ambitions or whatever dreams they wanted to have. Next, for CLT also, it increases motivation. Why does it increase motivation? Because it provides the students with authentic and meaningful interaction. Meaning, authentic, meaning for them it's important, meaning for them it's significant. It's not something that they just do for compliance. It's not just something that they need to do because they wanted to have a grade of 99.9. It's not something that they just have to do it because they wanted to be perfect in their examination. But through CLT, it's something that they would realize that they need to learn the language because it is important for them when they are already exposed to the field of work or whatever ambitions they will have in the future. That makes it meaningful, right? That makes it meaningful. So you expose them to meaningful interactions. What's meaningful for our students? So like when they chat with their friends, when they talk with their friends, conversation about something. So that's meaningful for them already. What's not meaningful for them probably is when they talk to to like a professor who talks about something that is not relevant to what they love. Okay? So it has to be relevant to them. So gives like example like Mobile Legend. It's Mobile Legends actually are something that would distract. But then it could be used also in a way that it could be constructive. Okay, because it is something that gives social interaction, although it's virtually, but then you can actually just guide them, like instead of using like shit and negative words there, you might actually just encourage them to be gentle in their words, even if the game itself is like something which is violent, but then you have to be gentle. So things like that gives equal importance to both the spoken language and the accuracy of the production as well. So that's CLT. Okay? Spoken and accuracy. Because again, in the two methods that we have presented, like the grammar translation, it's only focusing on the accuracy. No? It's not about the importance of it and the fluency. They're only focusing on the accuracy. In writing as well, right? We do not focus. Some would focus on as long as they have written it in a correct manner, in a grammatically correct, but then the thought is not that well, then we might be angry. But then here in communicative approach, we are very practical. Okay? Then fluency and accuracy should follow. Both are important. So characteristics of communicative grammar language activity. So in your activities, in our activities, when we apply CLT as part of our method, excuse me. So students need to communicate in order to be successful. This is the characteristic. Meaning, let's try to check our LAS. Let's try to check our modules. Is there any activity there that would let our students communicate? If not, then you can add. If you cannot, then maybe in the follow up or in the whatever, like if you follow the students up regarding their performance, you can communicate with them through English, like chatting them, texting them in English. They will be forced to use English, especially in chatting, right? Like you chat them, "Hi, how are you?" They will reply it immediately through English. They're so good at posting English posts, actually. So might as well let's take advantage of it, right? So next, an activity under CLT is also meaningful and relevant to the students. That's what I said. It's meaningful and relevant. It shouldn't be something that is from the way back. No, it should be something that is current. So as teachers, as English teachers, if we want our approach to be a communicative approach, then we must also find relevant activities. We must also be relevant. We shouldn't like, I don't like Facebook, that's why I don't have Facebook. I don't like Twitter because I don't have Twitter because I don't like to take pictures. But then this is the trend. Now, we are teachers. We should know. We should be exposed to it. At least, not necessarily we become professionals, like we focus to it, but then at least we have an idea about these things so that we could incorporate it to our teaching. We could incorporate it to our activities. Because if not, we would be left behind, especially in this moment of pandemic. We did not expect the pandemic to come, right? And IT seminars, ICT seminars are there way back before the pandemic. But then we are so hesitant now because we feel it less important. However, time comes, pandemic, and there we are all shocked and we are so clueless of what to do, how to deliver, because we don't know about Zoom, we don't know about MS Teams, we don't know about using our cell phones to use it as part of our teaching learning process because we are not into it. So in CLT also, it's very important. We need to be relevant. We need to be relevant in order for them to feel that this activity, this experience is meaningful. Okay? Another thing is an activity under CLT has comprehensible input. It has to be comprehensible. It should not be something like the activity that I presented to you, like, okay, read this 9-page science article, write a detailed essay, and submit it on Wednesday. It shouldn't be that way. It should be something that is guided. It should be something that is structured, and it should be something that students would know what to do specifically based from that activity. And it is also very important that these activities may incorporate scaffolding, meaning breaking concepts, larger concepts into specific concepts so that they would understand the general one to lower the risk of the language affective filter. Okay? Because if you present to them, all right, class, today we will discuss about the sentence patterns. Subject, link, subject, transitive verb, direct object. What is subject? Blah, blah, blah. What is transitive verb? Blah, blah, blah. What is direct object? Blah, blah, blah. And then we present a sentence. They would be hung up, right? Because they don't know what are these things. And then they just simply teach them the concept, the definition of what these are. But then they don't know its application. Instead, you you ask them. For example, all right, what did you do this morning? I brushed my teeth. Oh, very good. You write it. Brush my teeth. And then what did you do afterwards? I ate breakfast. Okay, very good. And there you will use it as your example in teaching sentence pattern. I brushed my teeth. What is it? It's the subject because, of course, knowing if you teach sentence pattern, although it's no longer emphasized now in our curriculum, but then if you teach that kind, like based from the words that they have given, so at least they know that I is the subject, ate or brush is the transitive verb, and the object would be the teeth because it is the receiver of the action which is brushing. So that's where we will explain. But we started with them giving the sentences, meaning they talk, they share their experience. So we use scaffold. Then that's their basic knowledge. They have the knowledge about, they have their basic skill in speaking. Use it. And later on, introduce the structure. Okay? Then grammar is also introduced in an integrated way. So integrated, mo na yung giingon. Like you should not just simply go directly to what memorize the 21 rules in subject verb agreement. And here comes another resource. There are already 27, sir. Why is it that you read that? Students would feel confused. Okay? So it should not be a resource, but instead it should be integrated in our instruction. It should be integrated in which our student may acquire the language effectively because they are not afraid. They are not so bound by the grammar rules, right? If you happen to compare that to the attitude of our learners, like if you set them rules, all right, okay, like our children but at home, like, okay, son, at 10 o'clock, you should, at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m., you should go home if you go somewhere else. But you should do this, you should do that. There are so many rules that we have set for them. Do you think they would be happy? Do you think they would be comfortable? Instead of doing what you wanted them to do, they will go out and rebel. That's what our students would also do because we have given them the different sets of rules. First, before letting them know the importance of these rules, before letting them use the sentences that maybe are actually the target of why we wanted them to know the rules in subject verb agreement, they would feel fear. They would be anxious about the language. They would not go to English. They would not attend to English classes. Okay? Because they feel that it's something that is very hard for them. And even professionals, adults would feel that way, right? That's why I don't like it. Just let me talk about science, about math, about life, about everything. Just don't let me study English because they're afraid probably they have experienced something negative when they were yet students. So we should not let our students feel that way. So a story with three tenses, basic structure, scaffolding. This is again the example output of our students. If you use this, these are the verbs. So as a summary of our session one, I know it's something like, it would be something like this, knowing that we are doing this virtually. But I do hope that within your level there, when you are with your co-teachers in your school probably or in your neighborhood, so at least you also have your interactions there. So because I know I feel you also knowing this pandemic, like, we have to be doing this virtually, because if it would be face to face, we would be very interactive, because we would create different activities, but then it's prohibited nowadays. So at least I hope that you have learned something. So as a summary, we have explored the basis and the basics of communicative language teaching, as take note, an approach, meaning it encompasses methods. The methods that we have learned before in teaching English can be just simply integrated in CLT, being an approach. Then we notice the path between research to theory, and our beliefs to implementation to teaching and learning. So meaning there are so many beliefs that we have. Probably those beliefs were wrong, those were right, but then at least now, how do we implement our way of teaching for our students to effectively learn? Then that's what our job is. That's our challenge. Next, we listed characteristics that make a good TGC lesson, the characteristics of the activities, okay, that are important to consider when we integrate activities under the teaching grammar communicatively, or we call it also CLT, communicative language teaching. We notice those characteristics in an example activity. Then we thought about how you might modify the activity for your context. So meaning, if you have already your activities in your modules, you might as well modify it if it really fits to your students, the environment that they have. So if the examples there are like different from their experiences, from their environment, you might as well just modify the materials, the language level, and the like. So these are the things that we did, and I hope these were the things that you have absorbed also during this particular session. Okay, so what is communicative competence? So simple as this. If our students, if we can describe our students to be this, then we already have hit the goal. Knowing when and how to say what to whom. Because sometimes there are so many intelligent beings who do not even know how to express their feeling in a way that is understandable, or in a way that is soothing to the person whom he is talking. Okay, so it doesn't matter, the aptitude does not matter here. What matters is you should know when and how and what to say to whom. That's communicative competence. Hopefully this would be our vision for our students. So thank you. These are the references. By the way, once again, our follow along documents, the assignment and the references and the resources will just be uploaded. You just visit our FB group. So CD1 TGCIP for junior high school English teachers. You might screenshot this slide here. It will be uploaded. There's an area there above for file. You might just browse it, and then the assignment will be posted there. The instructions are there. The references and the follow-along documents in relation to what I have discussed are there. Okay? And take note, the assignment or the assignment needs to be completed not later than September 20, 2021. So when would that be? So I think that's a week after next. So you have a lot of time to do your output or do your assignment. Remember, FB group. This means that you need to join it and follow the instruction. Then submit it through, okay, there's a specific link that you have to submit, and that in the group, FB group, what is there are the assignment. But after answering the assignment, you have to upload it in this link. HTTPS colon then slash bit small letters .ly slash tgcip capital all caps session 1, only the S is being capitalized, and 1 in part of the word session. Okay, so just look for the appropriate folder for it, because there are folders that are intended for your schools. Okay, that's where you will upload your output, meaning it's actually easy for us to monitor if who are those teachers, or who what school did not comply with this. Okay, because of course it will be being part of the training team, we and particularly handling a particular session, we will be asked for it, and we will also be the ones to check your outputs. Okay, and I know you can. We are all gifted to give our knowledge of what we learn. Okay, so thank you very much. So general reflections, please reflect on this before we uh, proceed to the next session. How do your beliefs about language acquisition and learning impact and language learning impact your teaching choices? Mhm. Reflect on it. Does it impact your teaching choices after hearing the difference between it? Do you teach like you have been taught? Were you been teaching now the way you were taught way back 20 years ago? Please reflect on it. How might what you learned today help you to think about the next 4 webinars? Okay? Basig on what might you be thinking today from the learnings, no? For the next few sessions. And what can you do to prepare for them? So these are the reflect questions for reflections. So I hope you reflect on it so that you will be ready for the next sessions that you will have along the way. So once again, Sir Paul has already introduced me before I spoke. So, but then let me say thank you very much. And once again, I'm Mr. Felix A. Anyasco Jr. of Inabanga North Central Integrated School. Thank you very much, Junior High School of English teachers of CD1 for accommodating me in this particular session. And thank you very much, everyone, for listening to my discussion. I hope you get everything and you will be willingly respond to our call for a better teaching learning experience to us and to our learners. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Sir Felix, for such a very comprehensive and all everything that you have given to us. So I'm sure that our participants are able to understand and get everything well. And when they go back to their stations, they were able to apply what they have learned from our speaker. Let's give a round of applause to Sir Felix Anyasco once again. Thank you, Sir Felix, for
Okay,
sharing your
thank you very
knowledge with
much.
us.
Thank you, Sir Paul.
All right. So now we are on the point, or we are now in the segment of the question and answer portion where we are going to read all your questions. We're going to answer that. So Sir Felix and the rest of the team will be able to answer that. So your questions with regards to CLT. So can you drop it on our group chat? And you can also drop it in our chat box here in Zoom. And we're going to share our ideas with all of your questions. So please do not hesitate. Now, by the way, at this point in time, I would like to call in my co-pilot here, Ma'am Marilo Arbasto Mamalo. We are now on the segment for the question and answer portion. And I believe that our participants are now so eager to send out their questions because they're not able to talk for the rest of the 2 hours. And this is the time that they can now talk. So the host of this meeting will be able to unmute you whenever you're going to raise your hand. So just use your raise hand button and then you're recognized. Then our host here, Sir Ronilo, will be able to unmute you and then you can start speaking. Or else, if you're not confident and comfortable with speaking in the microphone, you can also drop your message to the chat box. All right. By the way, I'd like to read some shout out here. So from our training manager, Sir Ronilo, shout out to the following teachers from Kanangkaan Integrated School of, I think it's Corelia. So Ma'am Wenny and Sir Jason, good morning. All right. And now we have a total of 79 participants that are on our list here, joining with us here. All right, Mamalo, are you ready? Where are you, Mamalo? I cannot start the job without you here.
Sir Paul, let me just also shout out Sir Paul. Is it okay?
Yes, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Sir Lin John Vincent Boyser in monitoring us actually here while we are doing it in the division together with Sir Mark Cyril Putani. Sir Lin John, thank you for that, and let's see each other soon. Okay, and so with the teachers, my friends in Lourdes National High School, probably Ma'am Bivet, they're also there, Ma'am Bivet. So shout out to you all.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Now, by the way, those who have just logged in, I would like to inform everyone that those who are unable to join us right now probably will be called out by the division office, because this is very important gathering. Because this is our cascading from the regional training last July, and we are tasked and mandated by the division office to have this. So those teachers who have known of other teachers from other schools, you can probably tell them about that they can join, or even if it's late, but we will accept them as long as they can be with us. Anyway, we still have a lot of sessions to go because we have here 82, but actually the teachers coming from CD1 are too many. I believe if not hundreds or 200, but we have only 82 present with us right now. All right. So how about my partner, Mamalo? Okay, see, I think Mamalo has a problem on the connection, right? So we will understand because sometimes the most difficult enemy that we have there in this virtual gathering is the connection. But anyway, I believe that you are all seated in a place with a stable connection. So kindly drop your questions here on the chat box, and we are going to answer all of those queries and everything that we know. All right, and our speaker is ready also to answer those questions. All right, it seems that our participants are ashamed
They
to
might
share their answers, Sir
they might also
Felix.
want to share their best experiences about teaching grammar communicatively, Sir Paul. Maybe they want
Yes.
to share it. I know they have been practicing these things already in their classrooms, probably. So might as
Mhm.
well just share it so other teachers would also learn from it.
Exactly. Something that is notable practices that you have done in your teaching, especially in dealing with language subject, especially those seasoned teachers who've been in the industry for 20 years, 30 years, or
Yeah,
even those who are new, sir.
yeah. Because again, we need to be relevant. We need to close the gap between the previous and the current practice. That's what we are trying to target here. So it's better to be what you call this, collaborative and collegial in our discussion here. So if you don't have any questions, you may share an additional input. So we could also discuss here in front of Sir Paul and the rest of the teachers in CD1.
All right. And also same problems or some worst problems that you've encountered in your classroom as you deliver a lesson in English subject in junior high
Yeah,
school, that could also be relevant.
yeah.
Right. Let's make this communication line open for everyone. Okay. So we have here from Baclayon District, Pamilacan High School, shout out to all teachers of Pamilacan. Also, thank you, Sir Felix, according to Ma'am Hazel
Thank you.
Bulotaulo.
You're welcome, Ma'am Hazel.
Another message here, thank you, Sir Felix, from Maria Cecilia. We have also from Loon South National High School, Ma'am Piligrina Lumba. Thank you, Sir Felix. All right. Naghan juga fans ani Sir O.
Of course, kay mao may nauna. Onya, Sir Paul, it would be the other speakers as well. So thank you very much for all. You're welcome. No, it's my pleasure actually to share what I have from of course, the humble experience that I got from from my teaching way back started 2008 up until now. So of course, it's just very heartwarming that you are so thankful and you learned something from what I have shared to you this morning. I know, and I hope that it's very fruitful, no? So, but anyway, Sir Paul, it's actually it's 11, no? What's like mga pungutana? What would they actually do with this?
I believe, sir, that they are preparing their best questions.
Okay.
They're crafting out, and right now they're still busy crafting their questions. But probably in some seconds, right after, they will be throwing out questions to us. All
Okay.
right.
But don't forget once again to join our CD1 junior high school teachers group. Actually, I'm not from CD1, I'm from CD2. As you have noticed in my introduction there, I'm from Inabanga North, but still, I'm very much happy that I'm here part of the training team for CD1. So I'm also part of that group because I'll be tasked to check, of course, your activities. So I need to be intact, be in it also, be in our group for CD1. So I'm glad to have friends there, and I'll be making more friends there as well because I'm extending my connection in CD1 already. This would be this would be the means for it.
Yes, sir. But it sounds like you are already in CD1. You're adapted member of CD1 already right now.
Yeah. There's
The way the people welcome you actually sees that you're already in CD1 right now.
yeah. Anyway,
Here's
we're
another
whole
message. Ma'am Letsa Prospero. Thank you, Sir Felix. There's also Ma'am Dili Vigonte. Kudos to Sir Felix. Thanks to you, Sir Felix. God bless.
God bless you also, ma'am. God bless to all of you. Keep safe.
We have also from LGU Sikatuna. I do not know the real name of this. He just or she just used LGU Sikatuna. We have, thank you, Sir Felix. Very comprehensive discussion. Very relevant. Okay, we have also Ma'am Leia Barcelona here. Thank you, Sir Felix. We have Sir Linjon Boyser. Kana, ay salamat gak. I don't know what the word gak. So is it your name calling or
The
sign?
nickname.
Nickname? All right. So it's your nickname. All right. So how about our participants now? We're trying to encourage you to send out your questions because the next speaker will be a different session and then your questions will be addressed in different topics. So in every topic, please air out your questions. And before we will proceed to the next session, then we will first entertain all those cobwebs that you have in your head. We will not be leaving you without answering those things that you're in doubt. All right, sir?
Yeah. If not, then once again, just share your what could be the limitations or disadvantages of CLT. Veronica Lorete, I believe she's from Panglao. Veron, is that you, Veron?
Yes, Ma'am Veron. Go ahead.
Okay, she's my student. So she was my student way before. So the limitations could be like just what we are having right now. Like during the time of pandemic, it's hard for us to really do face-to-face oral activities. That's why for in order for these limitations to be answered, like just what I have explained, like you may use the actual practices of our students, like the TikTok, the Facebook challenges, and in relation to using the language orally in communication setup. And like you want them to just communicate and express everything in through online or virtual. If they don't have any connection, then that would be another limitation. All right. But then at least for our modules, like I think there are activities there that are intended for them to communicate to the community. So those activities would let them actually be exposed to it, no? Be exposed to using the language. All we have to do as teachers is just to encourage them that when they go to a particular office, if there's an activity that would instruct them to do like that, at least they need to introduce themselves in English. So in that manner, they are now already exposed to CLT. It's only the monitoring that is difficult for us, but we have to cope up, just chat them and text them and using English as our language so that they would also respond using English. It wouldn't be hard for them, just like as hard as talking in front, because that's just through chatting, right? Or texting. So they would feel free to express themselves. And again, from upon doing it, you need to let them feel that the comfort of speaking to you, regardless if it's erroneous or not. Okay.
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, because in the communicative language teaching, we are not promoting errors here, but we're encouraging the students' freedom to express, because from the freedom, that is the springboard for them to be communicatively competent, because they are not aware of their mistakes and they are not conscious of that. And
Yes.
then when they are not conscious of that, they can express what they want. There's no restriction. And when there is no restriction, it will be easier for them to learn the language because they develop the confidence in sharing that. And of course, mastery will come in the future. And if there are mistakes that they commit, of course, the teachers will be here to correct those mistakes in a friendly approach. So if there's limitation, yes, I would tell there's limitation in everything we do because there's no perfect approach actually. But we are not going to talk about that limitation side as we're going to promote that limitation. But if there is a limitation, that's the thing that we will work out as language teacher because that's there that we are going to address. But more or less, the communicative language teaching will bring about a different innovation of approach to the students, because we are now giving premium to them to express. Unlike before that, we are the one talking everything for the rest of the time, and the students will just listen. So this time they are engaged. All right.
All right. I hope, Veron, you are satisfied with our answer. And regards to you, Veron, and to your classmates there in Panglao.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Paul. Thank you, Sir Felix.
Okay. So we have here another compliment, sir, from Ma'am Jeanette Minerales. Thank you, Sir Felix, for the great discussion. Very comprehensive and relevant. God bless you. All
You're
right.
welcome, ma'am.
All right. So is it Ma'am Veronica alone could ask questions? How about the rest of our participants?
The rest could
Does
also
it?
share. If
Yes.
you have been practicing CLT, you can also share. If there are questions actually like are being posted here by our participants, you can also answer. You can also share your ideas because I know you have been into it already.
All right. And aside from that, we are tracked by the regional office. Actually, according to Sir Pubs, they're going to visit every now and then how participative our participants in this training. So that would matter a lot. So please drop your question. Do not be hesitant whether these questions are a good question or not good question, but at least something that you really feel inside the classroom. I know that you have a lot of issues in your classroom as far as language teaching is concerned. Not only Ma'am Veronica has it, but there could be a lot of problems, right?
Yeah,
All
so we
right,
could
for
also share it to
our
Sir. So we could
yes,
also share it to Sir Pabs, our EPs, no?
of
Because Sir
course.
Pabs has a lot of ideas as well to share later as
Mm-mm.
he will, of course, he will know these questions and he will also help us address some of these which are, if in case there are things that we cannot address. So don't
Mm-mm.
you worry.
Yes. So everything that you will ask will be answered, and there will be no room for misconception here. Right after the training, everything will be answered by you, so that you can take full advantage of this training. Actually, if you will just listen to it, it's just different when you really take part of it, because when you take part of something, you can really get the full length and the deep understanding of something about CLT. All right. Okay, so how about our here? Thanks, Sir Paul and Sir Felix. Today's session is meaningful and a reminder as well to us English teacher. Again, Ma'am Veronica. I guess I'm going to award Ma'am Veronica as the most participative of this virtual meeting.
Ma'am Zinona also, sir, has as her message. Having
Oh
taught
yes,
English
sir.
for 34 years, I can attest to the effectiveness of CLT. Yes, ma'am, I agree to that. And especially that you, from your 34 years of experience, it's really effective.
Yeah, because you really have the wisdom when you are experiencing for imagine for 30 plus years.
Yes. So
You
ma'am
could
will be
have.
receiving the Saludo certificate next year for being 35 in the business.
Oh yeah, because it's too much already for an employee for 30 years. How I wish I could also reach that far.
Hi, Ma'am Zinona. Regards.
What advices kay ka Ma'am Justine Arizola? I think it's not finished yet. Good. What advices? Okay, would you like to please retype your question, ma'am? It's not so clear here on the message in the chat box. There's something you miss out. What advices can you give, sir, to us on how to become competent in teaching grammar? All right, right. We'd like to hear from Sir Felix. It's from Justin Arizola.
Okay, Ma'am Justin. Ma'am Justin. Okay. To become competent in teaching grammar, first, of course, we need to have this feeling of being competent. In order for us to become competent, we need to use the language more frequently than what we are used to be. Because we cannot be competent, just like our students, we cannot be competent in such area unless we practice it in a way that is effective for us. So for us to become competent in teaching grammar, we need to know the specifics, like what are these approaches? CLT is just one of the approaches that we might use in order for us to be effective. And there are a lot of these things. So what attending such sessions, attending such webinars like this would be an effective way for us to become competent. And then also by simply sharing ourselves, like our ideas, asking questions to our colleagues in the department, our colleagues in the school about your challenges being a teacher in grammar, that could also help you. Because again, we cannot live alone, no? We cannot live alone. We cannot do things alone. And it is better for us to ask questions. And then whatever these questions are and whatever these responses, if it fits to us, then let's try to apply it. It's a matter of, again, just like CLT, it's a matter of doing it. And then if there's an error upon doing it, you learn from it. Later on, you will become an expert. You can become confident,
Yeah.
confident in it, and you will be competent, right? So that's how we do it. No one is being competent at a blink of an eye. Everything has to follow a process. Everything. We need to commit errors. There's a need for it actually, although we are not asking for errors, but we need to experience it so that we know how to correct it.
Yes. Very well said, sir. As if like an answer of a Miss Universe pageant contestant, right? There is a very strong points. Actually, ma'am, in addition to that, by learning by doing of John Dewey principle, that can also, as what Sir Felix said, that through practicing the language and be able to use it every day with our students, that we can be competent. We're unaware that we're becoming competent because when we use the language, that's where we can become competent. Because sometimes you get to realize yourself that wow, I get to be better this time now, better than yesterday when it comes to speaking. If you just like to recall back those days that you were not that much in speaking, but when you apply that, that is why in our subject, if possible, in my case, I really have to speak in English. And then unknowingly the students are just following. You know what? Because it comes out when you are asking them questions, you would realize that there are words that they use that is they are coming from you. And when they get to participate competitions like speaking contest, extemporaneous speaking, you get to realize that your students are developing already the competence because you practice it, you model it. Becoming competent, ma'am, is about modeling. It's not about listening alone. It's about you practice the language and just make it free. Do not be restricted of the mistakes that you commit, because naturally we commit mistakes and that we learn from those mistakes and we become better teachers, become better English teachers ahead. So we will just have to do something, extend extra miles to train ourselves. If not through seminars, it could also be through videos, through people around us. We have to develop and expand our network of people because these people are really contributing much to us as far as our competence is concerned. So just keep going, ma'am Justine. You're on the right track. All right, sir. So we have another question. I'm sure that Sir Felix is so ready. To what extent should we allow our students to talk in the vernacular when they find it hard to speak in English? All right, sir.
Okay, so in the communicative language teaching or teaching grammar communicatively, and that's actually our goal, no, to know whether or not our students are having a hard time in speaking English, right? That's why they use in vernacular. But then what matters there, if they share their idea using the vernacular, that's just a stepping stone, right? A stepping stone. And later on, you will they keep using vernacular, still you answer them in English. Okay, there's no limit to it actually, unless until the students are ready to speak one. Because just like what Sir Paul has said in his previous explanation for the question that was asked in the previous one, from the previous teacher, like as long as you use the language also as a teacher, eventually your students would simply follow. They can just simply use it in a way that is something just like us. So it doesn't matter when are they ready to start, but as long as you speak to them using using the English language, and then encourage until they will be like willing to share. Okay, we cannot also just force them because that's the point here in communicative learning approach. When the need arises, and the need arises when they are ready. So we need to let them know that we need to let them feel that we are living as an example for them, right?
Exactly.
So and
Yes.
eventually mao na atong ingon ni Sir Paul, manundog na sila, mag in English ra po na sila, ma'am. But there's no actually exact time wherein okay, stop, you have to speak in English, okay, because that's against that approach. Okay. The challenge here is that we need to know our students. We need to know them whether or not are they willing or not, because there are probably some students of us who are just also challenging us. No. So mo na yung mahitabo. So knowing our students also is a best practice, because we no longer have inhibitions, and because we no longer have inhibitions, we know what to say to them and how to say it. Because from of course, as teachers, we are already communicatively competent also. So they will just simply observe, and uh, they will simply just acquire that eventually. Ang atwa lang ani is we just have to be very concerned of the monitoring of an observation of our students, so we would know when and how to let them speak. Sir
Yes,
Paul,
and we should also be consistent when it comes to that modeling. So when we teach English, we have to model the language. It's not that we will speak once in a while and we dominantly speak in vernacular the entire time. So there's no modeling for the students, because the vocabulary foundation of the students can also depend on their teacher sometimes. So it's good that we will practice the speaking in ourselves. And if there are times that the students have hard time in speaking in English and they use vernacular, let me share about what I learned from my previous school head. It's all about when a student is going to speak his answer of a question from the teacher, if possible, we have to encourage them. At least they can develop one complete perfect sentence that is simple. Because even if they will mix it with other language around, if they will mix it with other language together in their answer, they eventually can have that is already a success in their part if they can sustain giving a simple sentence. We will not force them to really have it said in all English, in everything like that, as long as they can express, and then later on that comes in a smooth process. It may be harder for them at first, but later on the students will learn. Have you noticed that there were even times in our class that our students started to be having difficult in speaking, but later on we realized that they are improving themselves. It is because of consistency. So we will be consistent in that, and we need not to discriminate learners as to fluency, whatever they can be, because speakers are not measured in terms of fluency that they can blow your minds away with their splendid English with accentuated grammar. No, it's not that. It's all about their freedom to express with ease. So it's something like that.
yeah, and then if there's in a case that we're in a class really doesn't have um like they really are having a hard time, most of them, so of course you will be integrating as well something, an explanation on the using the vernacular, and then later on you have to link. That should be just a link for them to understand what you're saying using English. But it should not be always in vernacular, because that's that will they will absorb. But then once you link it with the vernacular that you were using from the first time that you met these kind of students, because assuming that you already have an idea of what these kinds of students are in terms of their performance in English, so you need to really explain it thoroughly using the vernacular. That's just good as well. But then from time to time, it should be the majority of the words that you're using should be in English. And then along the way, in the first quarter, second quarter, then that's where the transition should come in. No, that's where the transition should come in, wherein you will now be using English so that they will be encouraged, because it was being done in a manner that is smooth for them, because they were not forced to do so, because you started with their level and then connected to their level. Eventually, in the second, third quarter, fourth quarter, they become confident in using the language because you were there along the way.
Yes, exactly. By the way, sir, we would like to welcome the presence of our English supervisor, Sir Pabs Villalon. Thank you, sir, for coming and attending our session with us. We are already in the Q&A segment, sir, and we've
Pabs, can I
already
have a message?
entertainment questions. How about asking a message from our EPS in English, Sir Pabs, if there's any, sir? Any words, sir, to say to our participants, sir? All right. I think Sir Pabs is busy because he is attending probably six sessions. He's trying
Yeah.
to take part just once in a while and proceed to another group. And we understand for Sir Pabs. All right. Some more questions from our participants. Okay, do not be thrifty when it comes to questions. So send out those things. I know
Excuse
that you
me,
have,
Paul,
yes,
excuse
yes,
me.
Sir Pops.
I'm just observing and watching you. I was surprised because the concurrent session was not functioning. Was the concurrent session chair
Uh,
of your group?
Sir has just problem probably in the internet connection, sir. That is why we're trying to help one another, sir. If there's problem encountered like that, there's inconsistency of the network.
Okay, because I was
Yes,
just
sir.
wondering because I am expecting her to be there because it's the concurrent session chair
She was there
and
earlier,
that
sir.
is her work. I was just wondering why you are there.
She is probably lost, sir, due to connection. She has already told us earlier that her connection is not that stable, sir.
You have to inform me earlier, no, regarding the development so that I wouldn't be also
Yes.
wondering what will happen to your session. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right. So we have to proceed. I would like to encourage again our participants to give questions. As I've gathered, we have only 5 questions here given to us. I'm expecting a lot more. Okay. Anything that you would like to say about your experiences in comes to dealing with communicative language teaching, or some kind of experiences that you could link to that CLP?
And by the way, in our FB group and Facebook group, you can actually ask questions also there, even though if you're done with our webinar in this, for this week, like on Monday. It's good also that we discuss things there, like if there are resources that we have used, which are effective uh, uh, in relation to CLP, you can also share it there so that we can discuss it with our colleagues, whether if it's effective, we can apply it or not. So anyway, we are all into it, the junior high school CD1 English teacher. So it might be good as well to share ideas there. So that would be our platform as well. And that's a good thing about technology, Sir Paul. Like we can actually just share our ideas and then exchange ideas in any way possible as long as we have connection, because the platform is just there virtually. So it's a matter of just simply allowing ourselves to be exposed to it, allowing ourselves to share, allowing ourselves to get resources from it. This everything is there.
All right. Yes, exactly. So some more sharing from our participants. So I believe that here from Ma'am Nelson Alzaro, sir, our issue here, sir, is that some students unfortunately cannot even spell or read the word correctly. What suggestions do you have for how CLT can be used? Thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay, so what level is that? I think in a way that's junior high school. No, for I hope it's not grade 10. If it's still grade 10, because there are actually like programs in the English department that are answering these skills that were less mastered, no, like fill array, like some other tools that were used. So if found out really that students can't even spell or read the word correctly, so the thing is we provide them with drills, though, that would also not necessarily drills that really focus on it, but then activities wherein they can use these words and then let them just write or write what they hear and then share it to you and compare it to what is correct. So something like that. I think um, drill in CLT is not really encouraged, but it can be used. It can be integrated. Okay. So all we have to do, because we already have diagnosed that this is a problem, expose them into this. Like you ask them to read, and then by reading, by simply knowing what these words are, then read it aloud, and after which, then you ask questions relevant to it, and then tell them it's not um, it's okay if it's grammatically wrong or not, as long as they share what they've read. And from their level, you will start because you cannot expect them to answer the way you want them to answer because again, you know already that they cannot comprehend, that they cannot even read. So from the reading, then asking them to answer your questions, that means comprehension, and that becomes communicative also because you are already conversing with him. Then it's where you will connect to him. Okay, it's where you will connect to him. Sir Paul?
Okay, sir. Yes. It's true that it is really difficult to impart the CLT to students or even struggling students, shall I say, those who cannot even spell or read, because basic communication, it involves the macro skills, the reading, the writing, the speaking, and the listening. But if reading is difficult or even writing is difficult, that will affect the entire communicative competence of the student. So probably that the students is a beginner. So in my part, what should I suggest is that you have to go with the students' development on the starting point, because it's difficult. There's scaffolding of knowledge or scaffolding of information and instruction to the students. We will not directly proceed to the complex unless the students will be helped. So there's what we call a special individualized instruction probably of the students to assist him in reading, because we cannot deny really that it really happens in our case in high school that there are students who cannot even read. There are still even who reach to second year who can have problems in reading. So in that case, we will not go through the most complex part of the communication process, but we will just have to assist the students by using the scaffolding of activities that is in line or that would suit properly to the students' need. So we will be patient probably in helping the students to read or spell something, and it will develop later on as we are on the process.
Yeah, because in the communicative approach, remember in the matrix that we had, there's the audio grammar translation and audiolingual method. The third one is what the approach for a grammar translation. It focuses more on reading and writing. For audiolingual, it focuses more on listening and speaking. But in the communicative approach, it depends upon the skill. Okay, it depends upon the skill that is needed to be mastered by the students. Therefore, if the skill needed to be developed is reading and writing, the correct spelling, that's where our goal should be. Okay, that's where our goal should be. Therefore, our activities should be focusing on it. So let's start with the simple words. Okay, the silly sentences, the simple sentences, and then you try to look to read what they have written there. Like I am reading a book. Okay, simple. You ask them to you ask them what they're doing right now, and then you ask them to write. Okay, so they would say I am reading a book. Okay, so you said you are reading a book. A book. Please write that down. Okay, so from writing it down, they're already trying to spell out what they've said, and then you go on to the next sentence, the next question that would lead to an answer that would get them into a word that is somewhat difficult for them to to write. And then you ask again the same process. Write them, and then let me see how we have written them. So that would be the thing. Okay? Meaning we are just simply using the communication or communication situation in order for us to link no to their difficulty in spelling and in reading. And it's not hard for them to understand if they say, I am reading a book, because that's very simple to comprehend, right? So they might not be aware of it, that they can actually comprehend. It's just that they're not exposed to it. That's why when they're into complicated reading materials, they would be having a hard time because, of course, it probably is because they're not having this opportunity to be exposed to it.
So we will not subscribe to the idea that it's difficult for the students to learn at all, because there's
Yes.
always an opportunity for the students to learn as long as he or she is guided properly by the kind of teacher in communication.
Yes. And I
All right.
know we are all doing that. We are trying our very best to
Yes.
connect that gap because it's normal. Actually, it's common to us. It's common to
Oh,
everyone.
yes.
So all we have to do is to just really look into the specific details that we could do for it. Okay. And Ma'am Nelsa, I hope we have at least given an enlightenment to your question, to your query about the difficulty in spelling and reading and in integrating it in our CLT approach. No. So but at any rate, again, here we're just simply using our conversation or communicative situation as a means for our students to actually acquire the knowledge that they need to learn in English. Okay, and of course that comes with grammar and all the structure. It's just being unconsciously being done. Not necessarily that we will really input it directly to them, because again, that would be going against the principle, or that might be giving them a negative notion to learning.
Right. So thank you, sir. So for sharing and for making things clear. I think Ma'am Nelsa is able to understand everything. So we need more questions. We still have a lot of time. This is your perfect opportunity actually to raise, because right after this we'll be having another topic, another set of discussion, and you perhaps might have a question that is not anymore relevant to session 2. So while we're still in session 1, so kindly feel free to express your questions. All
Yeah.
right.
And being the first speaker, while waiting for others to ask questions, Sarah, being the
Mhm.
first speaker in this webinar, I would like to put this in your mindset that we are not really actually going away from grammar, okay? But we are directing towards grammar, but our approach is the communicative teaching. It's not necessarily like we really are into the structure. So our goal is for students to acquire the language, meaning when they acquire it, of course, that the grammar, the structure, and everything that comes with it is already there. Okay, it's only our approach. Okay, and everything that we will be discussing all throughout this webinar, like session 1 to session 6, is actually answering that question on how are we going to use a communicative approach and let our students understand the rules in grammar, and then develops the language with this. So that's how we are trying to deal with it. That should be our mindset now, no, on the first day and until the end of our webinar this Friday, because I'm sure with all the training team members, the facilitators, and the rest of the team, and they will also give you like informative inputs about teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines and its importance and applications in our day-to-day experience with our students. Thank you.
All right. So some more things that you would like to share, some more things that you would like to discuss. Okay. I believe there are a lot of stories in each classroom. Probably we have so many issues in our classrooms during face-to-face classes. Probably, if you can still recall those things that you had. Okay, so you may probably have to raise it right now so that we can help each other. During our regional training, also in the region, we also have laid down a lot of questions to our speakers, and at least we are so happy that at the end of the day our question is answered and we're satisfied, and that makes the whole thing of this training good, because we are able to develop deeper understanding because of our questions are answered. So anyway, we have a lot of people in our training team can even answer those questions if you'd like. All right. Okay, here. Ano man na ni kanina. Okay. So how about our participants? We still have enough time to have that sharing of practices or airing out of issues and concerns with regards to CLT in our classroom, especially when it comes to, grammar is such a difficult thing for our students if that is not run through properly by a teacher in a way that is engaging. That provides, sometimes that's a stereotype idea that grammar is difficult. Our students nowadays would say that grammar is difficult, and it is because it's the approach that probably is having a problem here, and we're not able to drive through the right thing, and that is why our students probably have problems on the grammar, even if they reach to second year, grade 8, grade 10, grade 10. They still have problems on the subject verb agreement, probably because there's something that we should do at the beginning that we have to, that we missed out probably, and that is why the CLT is going to answer that question or perennial problem that we encounter in our classroom with our students in our English class. Okay. So some more questions from our participants. Please do not hesitate to drop it here in the chat box. It doesn't mean that if you will give question, you really have so many problems in your class and you're afraid to share that problems. We are here not to undermine those things, but we are here to help you smooth or smoothen or streamline those problems that you experience, so that when face-to-face classes will resume, then we are now ready to start doing the job, how to integrate the CLT in our teaching. All right. So somewhere a word, Sir Felix,
Sir?
that you would like to add to our participants? It seems that they are. Does it mean that they are satisfied because there are no more questions raised here?
Maybe they're thinking for the lunch, sir. It's already 11:39, and probably there some of them are, because most of us are actually at home, probably like they're having some concerns in preparing the lunch,
Okay.
probably, or whatever. I don't know, but that's personal. But then, regarding the things that we discussed and the things that will be discussed this afternoon and the next days to come, so I do hope that in every challenge and every opportunity to learn new approaches in teaching, especially in grammar, for our students to acquire language, I do hope that we will be very much open to it. And let's try to also reflect on our practices, that we are also willing to change these practices in order for it to become relevant. Because if we keep on doing the things the wrong way, we will also produce wrong students.
Mhm.
Therefore, the system and the culture goes on and on and on, and there would be no more time for us to check or correct it. Therefore, as from this webinar, like Sir Pabs and the rest of the English department and this in the central office, we're in, it's simultaneously done, like elementary and junior high school. Therefore, questions like this, if they can spell or read, I believe it will be also answered in the elementary sessions. Okay, so that they would know. And I hope the elementary teachers would also ask this same question, like such as this, so that they could also try to address it as early as there in the elementary year, so that in high school, in the junior high school, that problem will no longer exist. That problem will be no longer something that we have to relook into, because it already was answered. And I know it will be answered because there is also this same seminar happening today in elementary and in junior high school. So I hope that would be, as long as, again, we as teachers are open to it and put our hearts into really letting our learners acquire the language that we want them to acquire, just like what we are doing. It's not good that we are so good in speaking English and our students are not even cannot even know how to read and write correctly. So it should be transferred. That's our goal here. It's our liability, it's our responsibility. And I'm not forcing you, actually, but again, it's our moral obligation. And I do hope with an open heart and with a good attitude, the willingness to share will be there. And I do believe that most of us here in the Bohol are very cooperative and are very open minded teachers. So this would just be a start, or maybe these are just part of the steps that we are going towards the target. And hopefully, DepEd Bohol, as what Sir Bianito said, we care for all. It would be true for us as well, that we care. As we care for our students and going come together, it becomes for all, hopefully. So good luck, everyone. Thank you very much for listening, by the way. And I hope that you have understood what I'm trying to explain on my session. Thank you. Sir Paul, take it away.
Right, there is here a message from Ma'am Nelsa, sir. I think this is a compliment with your splendid answer of her question. Thank you, sir, for responding to my question. Your suggestions have really helped me understand how to deal with this type of problem. Also, thank you, Sir Felix and Sir Paul. Very beneficial food for the thoughts. Okay, thank you, Ma'am Nelsa and Ma'am Jeline, for the heartwarming words. All right, so of course, that's our job here to really cascade what we've learned, because it's just part of sharing what we have for our teachers in the field, and so that we can handle all those problems in communication, and we can even solve little or big problems in the classroom, as long as we are ready and as long as we're equipped with everything we need in order to deal with diverse types of learners. And we cannot deny the existence of this kind of scenario in our classroom. Even if in fourth year, I still have encountered problems in communication. In the higher levels, in even grade 12, there's still problem. But we have to look into positive perspective that though this exists, but there's always a plenty rooms for us to address this problem, as long as we are ready to start our job of being the model of communication, somebody that's going to embody what should be and how the communication should be inculcated to our students. All right. So I believe there's no more other questions. So, and at this point in time, if you have missed out questions right now, you probably can just reserve it later. We will try to address that if there's time. Probably you're still thinking of questions to raise. So anyway, at this point, we will be giving a certificate of recognition to our speaker who has just done a very great job this morning, all about the communicative language teaching. So let me read the content or the citation of the certificate of recognition to our speaker, Sir Felix. All right. So certificate of recognition for having served as learning facilitator or slash resource speaker during the English proficiency program for teachers and school leaders on teaching grammar communicatively in the Philippines, given at the Schools Division Office, Bohol, Tagbilaran City, Philippines, on the 10th day of September 2021. Signed, Dr. Bianito Dagatan, CISO 5, Schools Division Superintendent. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give another virtual resounding round of applause to Sir Felix Anyasco for doing the great job.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Paul, and thank you very much, Sir Pabs, for the opportunity to speak in front of these great people, these intelligent people here in CD1. Thank you, Sir Pabs. I hope I did not fail you. Thank you.
All right. So once again, thank you so much, Sir Pabs, also for joining us. You're adding flavor and inspiration to our team. Sir Pabs, thank you so much, sir. Okay, so since it's already 11:45 and no more questions raised by our participants, so I'd like to go back to our training manager, Sir Ronilo Palingkod, to give us something, reminders or points or instructions for this afternoon session. Take it your way, Sir Ronelo Palingkod, sir.
Thank you very much, Sir Paul. Congratulations to Sir Felix Anyasco. Well done, sir. For this afternoon session, the same thing. I'm gonna require our facilitators to enter the meeting room as early as possible. 12:30 siguro pwede. And our participants, the link will be shared to our GC or it will be posted on our FB page at 12:50. And at exactly 1 o'clock, we will start the second session. So, mauna may tabo ng hapon, sir. Sir Paul.
Yes, sir. Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for the reminders ahead. So let's call it our session. Let's call it the morning session a day. So see you in the afternoon, and I hope everyone will be present, and I hope that the attendance will be the same. And enjoy your lunch and have a great day.